Chapter 116. At the end of the third teleportation, Xiao Lingyu appeared on a stone stool in a hall. There was a miniature teleportation array in the hall. This was the fourth and final teleportation. Not only did this teleportation require 100,000 supreme-grade spirit stones, but one also needed to have the strength of a fifth tribulation expert. There were only 5 people before Xiao Lingyu, so it was soon his turn. 100,000 supreme-grade spirit stones was nothing to Xiao Lingyu. After handing over the spirit stones and injecting some energy into the strength-testing stone, Xiao Lingyu once again shocked the cultivators in the hall. The fourth teleportation quickly ended. Xiao Lingyu was not on a stone stool like the previous few teleportation arrays, but in a teleportation array. At this moment, 2 old men in red robes with a silver flame imprint on their foreheads were waiting outside the teleportation formation. When they saw Xiao Lingyu arrive, they clasped their fists and went up to receive him. Moreover, they were respectful. The 2 juniors welcomed the arrival of Senior. The 2 Heaven Fire Hall experts bowed and said. There were a few cultivators who were not from the Heaven Fire Hall in the small room. They had arrived before Xiao Lingyu, so they naturally did not see Xiao Lingyu's previous performance. Therefore, they were very surprised. The 2 old men with the silver flame mark between their eyebrows were 6 tribulation experts, but they actually addressed the young cultivator as Senior. Could this young cultivator be in existence above the 6th tribulation? Although the Fire Spirit continent was prosperous and experts were as common as clouds, there were not many existences above the 6th tribulation. Furthermore, experts above the 6th tribulation could be considered experts anywhere in the cultivation world. Most importantly, 6th tribulation experts generally would not address 7th tribulation experts as Senior. Most of them would address them as fellow Taoists, especially the arrogant 6th tribulation experts from the Heaven Fire Hall. For them to address him as Senior, his cultivation level was probably above the 7th tribulation. This made everyone even more shocked. Everyone knew that there were no 9th tribulation experts in the Fire Spirit continent. The current Hall Master of the Heaven Fire Hall was the strongest person on the Fire Spirit continent. He was an itinerant immortal who had just transcended the 8th tribulation. If this young cultivator was an 8th tribulation expert, why would such an expert come to the quiet Flame Mountain range? There's no need to be so polite, fellow Taoists. Xiao Lingyu had an indifferent expression as she extended her hand to support the 2 Heaven Fire Hall cultivators. She did indeed have the bearing of an expert. Xiao Lingyu felt that there was nothing wrong with making the Heaven Fire Hall experts mistake him for a 9 tribulations expert. At the very least, it would prevent the Heaven Fire Hall experts from having any devious thoughts about him. Furthermore, the subsequent matters would be much easier to discuss. Senior, may I know the reason for your visit? If there is anything we can do for you, please feel free to tell us. We will do our best, a cultivator from the Heaven Fire Hall said very politely. I'm here today to borrow the quiet flame, Heavenly Fire. I wonder if your esteemed hall can make it convenient for me. Of course, I won't borrow your quiet flame, Heavenly Fire for nothing. You can state any conditions you have. Xiao Lingyu casually found a chair in the room and sat down before speaking in a flat tone. The 2 Heaven Fire Hall cultivators had an as-expected expression because many experts knew that the reason the Heaven Fire Hall was in charge of the Quiet Flame Mountain range was because of the Quiet Flame Heavenly Fire. In their opinion, the only thing that could attract a 9th tribulation expert in the Quiet Flame Mountain range was the Quiet Flame Heavenly Fire. Senior, we can naturally lend you the Quiet Flame Heavenly Fire. However, the Quiet Flame Heavenly Fire has been very irritable recently. The 2 of us don't dare to break the seal easily. Senior, please sit here for a moment. I'll send a message to the Hall Master. A Heaven Fire Hall cultivator said in a seemingly honest manner. Okay, send the message. Xiao Lingyu nodded in response before closing her eyes to rest. Don't the few of you need to go out and do something? A Heaven Fire Hall cultivator shouted at the non-Heaven Fire Hall cultivators who had been teleported over, indicating for them to quickly leave and not be a hindrance. The cultivators suddenly snapped out of their daze and left with flattering smiles. Xiao Yu only waited for 2 hours before the Heaven Fire Hall Master personally rushed over. The Hall Master of the Sky Fire Hall was a middle-aged cultivator. He was quite tall and wore golden brocade clothes. The flame mark on his forehead was purple in color. He looked very handsome and exuded the aura and majesty of someone in high position. After the Heaven Fire Hall Master, there were 2 red-robed elders with golden flame marks between their eyebrows. They were both 7th Tribulation scattered immortals. As such, it was equivalent to the Heaven Fire Hall's strongest experts coming. It was clear that the Heaven Fire Hall valued 9th Tribulation experts. Xiao Yu guessed that the other party's experts came not to welcome him, but because they were a little worried about his arrival. However, this was only his guess and might not be the truth. The Heaven Fire Hall Master arrived in front of Xiao Yu with a smile and said in a manner that was neither servile nor overbearing, "I'm Yindong. Welcome to the Hidden Flame Mountain Range." Xiao Yu stood up, cupped his hands, and said in a very amiable manner, "You're too polite, Hall Master Yin. I've troubled you to come here personally. Please forgive me for disturbing you. I heard that you want to borrow the Hidden Flame Heavenly Fire, and the Hidden Flame Heavenly Fire is currently in a special period. Therefore, I'll take the liberty to ask, why do you want to borrow the Hidden Flame Heavenly Fire?" Yindong asked cautiously. "Haha, it's just to refine some special materials," Xiao Yu replied with a smile. "A material that even you need to rely on external forces to refine is definitely not an ordinary immortal-grade material. I wonder if this material has spirituality and if it will resist the refinement and automatically counterattack?" Yindong asked again. "It does have spirituality, but I can still suppress it, so it can't automatically counterattack." Xiao Yu knew that it was reasonable for the other party to be so cautious, so he replied very patiently. Of course, Xiao Yu also knew that he was not a 9th Tribulation expert. Now that the other party had an 8th Tribulation expert and 2 7th Tribulation experts, even if he did not have the patience, he had to cooperate obediently. Since that's the case, there's nothing wrong with lending the Hidden Flame Heavenly Fire to you." After hearing Xiao Yu's reply, the Heaven Fire Hall Master agreed very readily. Then he said to the 2 6th Tribulation Heaven Fire Hall cultivators, "Temporarily close the teleportation formation here. Without my orders, don't open it." "Yes, Hall Master." The 2 6th Tribulation Heaven Fire Hall cultivators responded in unison. "Come with me, Taoist." After the Heaven Fire Hall Master said this to Xiao Yu, he walked towards the main door with the 2 7th Tribulation experts. Xiao Yu did not hesitate at all and immediately followed. However, he was a little worried because the Heaven Fire Hall Master was clearly a shrewd person. If he exposed his true cultivation level in a while, he did not know if these Heaven Fire Hall experts would still be so polite. With Xiao Yu's current strength, he might be able to easily escape from the attack of a 7th Tribulation expert. But if he faced an 8th Tribulation expert, even if he had a high-grade immortal-grade weapon to protect himself, there was no possibility of him escaping. But no matter what, Xiao Yu needed to borrow the Hidden Flame Heavenly Fire. So even if it was a little risky, he could only bite the bullet and follow. After exiting the main door, Xiao Yu and company were immediately surrounded by scorching waves of fire. However, the 3 Heaven Fire Hall experts did not feel uncomfortable at all. It was unknown what Dharma treasure they had on them that prevented the waves of fire from coming within 3 feet of them. As for Xiao Yu, he did not have such a Dharma treasure that repelled fire, so he could only release a ring of chaotic light to keep the flames away from his body. Chapter 117. It was unknown if it was because they could not fly in the Hidden Flame Mountain Range or if there were other concerns, but even an 8th Tribulation expert like the Heaven Fire Hall Master had to walk forward steadily. Xiao Yu naturally followed behind. It was difficult to see any other living creatures in the mountain range. There were only bare rocks and flames that constantly seeped out from the rocks. It was a world of fire. After traveling for 4 hours, Yindong brought everyone to a stop at the foot of a mountain. The mountain had a very strange shape because it became wider the higher they went, while the lower part was relatively thinner. It looked like a pyramid with half of its body pierced into the ground. The hidden flame heavenly fire is sealed here. The entrance is at the top. Let's fly up. After Yindong gave a reminder, he took the lead and flew up, slowly floating towards the top of the mountain. Shaoling Yu followed closely behind, but he realized that the higher they went, the greater the spatial pressure. Furthermore, the surrounding fire elemental energy became more violent, constantly squeezing towards the cultivators' bodies. The mountain was not considered very tall, but it gave people the feeling that it was difficult to climb. The three Heaven Fire Hall experts had it easy. It was unknown what enchanted treasures they had on them. But even here, they were able to prevent the fire elemental energies from approaching them. In order to not expose his true cultivation level, Shaoling Yu tried his best not to show any signs of strain. He even let the chaos nascent soul release the primordial chaos fire. With the uniqueness of the primordial chaos fire, ordinary fire elemental energy did not dare approach it. However, what Shaoling Yu did not expect was that the top of the mountain was filled with extremely rich fire elemental energy. The three Heaven Fire Hall cultivators were no longer as relaxed as before. All of them had solemn expressions. The special equipment they had on them could no longer block the fire elemental energy. They had to circulate all of their powers. Vigorous fire elemental immortal spiritual power could block the fire elemental energy. Although the primal chaos true fire could also resist the power of the origin of fire, because Shaoling Yu had not deliberately improved the quality of his primal chaos true fire for a long time, the power of the primal chaos true fire was not too strong. In order to give himself the calmness of a ninth tribulation expert, Shaoling Yu gathered the primal chaos essence, and his body was immediately wrapped in a circle of gray light. The chaos essence chi was of a higher level than any origin energy in the cultivation world. With it protecting Shaoling Yu's body, even the fire origin energy would automatically take a detour when it surged towards Shaoling Yu. The powerful aura of the chaos essence was naturally sensed by the three top Heaven Fire Hall experts. When they saw that Shaoling Yu remained calm, they were greatly astonished. As expected of a nine tribulations expert, she could remain calm even when facing Origin's energy. The top of the mountain was very flat, as if it had been cut by a giant sword. It looked more like a square. In the center of the mountaintop, there was a building that looked like a small house. Yindong led everyone to the door of the house and stopped. The door was tightly shut, and the entire house was wrapped in powerful restrictions and arrays. Even if these restrictions and arrays faintly emitted some aura fluctuations, it made Shaoling Yu's heart palpitate. Most importantly, this small house, like the mountain, exuded an ancient aura, as if it had existed for countless years. Yindong's expression was solemn. His hands began to gesture in front of his chest, and he began to mutter. After 10 breaths of time had passed, Yindong suddenly shouted loudly, and then he slapped the seal he'd formed on the door. Immediately, the entire mountain shook gently, and the small house was wrapped in a ray of light. The door of the small house slowly opened. The door opened extremely slowly in the first few moments, but Shaoling Yu never expected that after a few moments, the door would suddenly open completely. At the same time, a powerful shock wave surged out of the door. The three Heaven Fire Hall experts seemed to have expected it, as they quickly dodged to the sides of the door. Shaoling Yu was caught off guard, and the shock wave swept across his body. Even with the chaos essence protecting him, he could not help but take a few steps back before stabilizing himself. These three old fogies did not warn me before. They were probably trying to test me. The shockwave only swept past and did not continue. Shaoling Yu walked to the door once again, and when he saw the calm expressions of the three Heaven Fire Hall experts, he could not help but curse inwardly. Fellow Taoist, please enter. Once you enter the depths of the mountain, you will see the hidden flame heavenly fire. Yindong acted as if nothing had happened, and said while pointing at the door, there were no other decorations in the small house, and there was only a bottomless hole. After Shaoling Yu walked in, he glanced down and discovered that there was a stone staircase in the hole that extended into the bottomless darkness. "Thank you for leading the way, Home Master." Xiaoling Yu took a step to the side and let Yin Dong in front, and said with a calm expression, "The hidden flame, heavenly fire, has been very violent recently. Fellow Taoist, when you go down later, you must not act rashly. It's best if you restrain your cultivation aura tightly." After Yin Dong said this with a smile, he led the two seventh tribulation experts down the stone staircase. Xiaoling Yu still followed behind the three Heaven Fire Hall cultivators unhurriedly. The further down they went, although the spatial pressure was decreasing, the surrounding temperature was increasing. Furthermore, the fire elemental origin energy here was denser than at the top of the mountain. The three Heaven Fire Hall cultivators were very slow. They appeared to be very careful and did not dare to be careless. Every 1,000 steps they went down, they would see a corridor connected to the stone staircase. There were many doors on both sides of the corridor. Clearly, there were secret rooms set up inside. These secret rooms are used for fire elemental cultivators to cultivate. When fire elemental cultivators cultivate in these secret rooms, their cultivation speed will double. The premise is that the cultivator can withstand such a fast speed. Yin Dong explained to Xiaoling Yu. No wonder the Fire Spirit continent has the most experts among the origin continents. It's also the most prosperous continent. With such a cultivation treasure land, it can naturally produce a large number of experts. Xiaoling Yu nodded and thought to himself. After going down about 5,000 steps, they finally reached the end of the stone staircase. The area at the end of the stone staircase was very small. It was less than 30 feet in length and width. Furthermore, the surroundings were not stone walls, but layers of silver restriction lines. Boom! As soon as the four of them arrived, the restriction began to rumble. Following that, the silver lines also began to crackle for a while. The hidden flame, heavenly fire, has been very irritable recently. It often attacks the restriction here. In a while, we will open the restriction and let you in. You must remember not to anger the hidden flame, heavenly fire. Of course, with your strength, you have nothing to fear even if it is angered. However, you must be careful not to give the hidden flame, heavenly fire, a chance to rush out of the restriction. This is because the restriction will remain open after you enter. Yin Dong solemnly instructed Xiaoling Yu. Home Master Yin, don't worry. With me around, I guarantee that the hidden flame, heavenly fire, will not be able to rush out of this restriction. Xiaoling Yu replied with a smile, as if to prove his strength or to reassure the Heaven Fire Hall experts. With a thought, the phoenix feather appeared in his hand. The 6 demons suppressing immortal pearls also circled above his head. Chapter 118. Fellow Taoist, please pay attention. I will now open the restriction. Once the restriction is opened, fellow Taoist can enter immediately. It will take at most 10 days. I hope fellow Taoist can come out. The 3 of us can only last for 10 days. After Yin Dong finished speaking, he nodded to the other 2 7 Tribulation Heaven Fire Hall experts. Then, the 3 of them formed hand seals together and cast the seals onto the restriction. Following the actions of the 3 Heaven Fire Hall experts, the restriction slowly dissipated like snow under the blazing sun. A small door that could only allow 1 person to pass through gradually appeared. From a small door that was slowly forming, fire elemental origin energy constantly spewed out. The expressions of the 3 Heaven Fire Hall experts turned more and more solemn. Their bodies were constantly trembling as they endured the scourge of the fire elemental origin energy. Fellow Taoist, if you don't enter now, when will you? When the small door was completely opened, Yin Dong shouted to remind Xiaoling Yu without turning his head. Xiaoling Yu only hesitated for a moment before he resolutely charged in with the phoenix feather and the 6 demon suppressing immortal pearls above his head. Just as Xiaoling Yu passed through the small restriction door, a green wave of fire rushed towards him. Xiaoling Yu knew that the green wave of fire was the hidden flame, heavenly fire that was sealed here. In theory, this heavenly fire was the strongest flame that could be found in the cultivation world. It was said that it could even melt ordinary immortal equipment. Freeze! Shaolin Yu shouted as the sixth demon, suppressing immortal pearls, flew out from the top of his head and surrounded the green wave of fire. Each of them released a sacred radiance, forming a cage-like halo. The hidden flame, heavenly fire, was a flame that was filled with spirituality. It could even be said that it had formed an independent consciousness. After all, it had existed for too long. However, after being trapped here for so many years, the hidden flame, heavenly fire that had gained consciousness naturally wanted to break free. As a result, its temperament was becoming more and more violent, and its offensive instincts were extremely high. Seeing the quiet flame, heavenly fire crazily clashing within the circle of sacred white light, but still unable to break out of the encirclement of the sixth demon suppressing immortal orbs, Shaolin Yu's mood became slightly more relaxed. He was afraid that he would not be able to trap the quiet flame, heavenly fire. If he could not trap it, not only would this trip be wasted, there would also be the danger of being burned into nothingness by the quiet flame, heavenly fire. The reason why the quiet flame, heavenly flame, was getting more and more violent was because it felt that it had been suppressed for many years and was getting weaker and weaker. If it didn't rush out now, it might vanish in a thin air here. It was also because the hidden flame, heavenly fire, was getting weaker and weaker that it was unable to break out of the siege of the extreme grade immortal tool suppressing demon immortal orb. After observing for a while, Shaolin Yu confirmed that the hidden flame, heavenly flame, was unable to escape. She called out the snake from the spirit beast pouch and said, "The hidden flame, heavenly flame, has been trapped. You should release that ball of demonic fire as well." The snake first looked at its master gratefully, then opened its mouth and spat out the ball of dark red demonic fire. With the help of Shaolin Yu, it shot it into the sacred halo of the six demon immortal orbs. The moment the serene flame, heavenly flame, and the demonic flame met, they pounced towards each other as if they were natural enemies. After which, they became entangled with each other. They were like two fighting cocks, and it seemed as though a victor had to be determined. The reason why the quiet flame, heavenly flame, was chosen to help the snake refine the ball of demonic fire was because the snake knew that demonic fire and heavenly fire were natural enemies. The snake wanted to borrow the power of the quiet flame, heavenly flame, to consume the repulsive force of the demonic fire, in an attempt to reduce the pressure when it was refining the demonic fire. After the demonic fire emerged from the blood pool, it had been very quiet. Now that it was attacked by the quiet flame, heavenly flame, it seemed to be only instinctively counterattacking and defending. There were no signs of it releasing its power, which made Shaolin Yu and the snake frown. What Shaolin Yu and the snake did not expect was that the ball of demonic fire was actually at a disadvantage under the fierce attacks of the quiet flame, heavenly flame, and it was constantly being devoured by the quiet flame, heavenly flame. The snake seemed to be a little anxious. It could not help but contact Shaolin Yu telepathically, asking Shaolin Yu to retrieve the ball of demonic fire first to prevent it from being completely devoured by the quiet flame, heavenly flame. Shaolin Yu thought for a moment, but shook his head and rejected the snake's request. His gaze was fixed on the ball with thorns and the ball of demonic fire. If there was something strange about the ball of dark, red, demonic fire, then the strange thing was the ball with thorns. Shaolin Yu always felt that the ball was not simple, and that the ball did not belong to the demonic fire. On the contrary, the demonic fire belonged to the ball. Shaolin Yu guessed that the ball with thorns would definitely not watch the quiet flame, heavenly flame devour all the demonic fire around it. However, after 2 hours had passed, Shaolin Yu gloomily discovered that he had made a mistake in his estimation. The quiet flame, heavenly fire was like a hot knife through butter and actually swallowed all of the demonic flames around a round bead, while that round bead with thorns still had a quiet appearance. However, the snake had previously told Shaolin Yu that the reason why it was unable to completely refine the ball of demonic fire was because its dragon soul and dragon essence were unable to enter the core area of the ball of heavenly fire. From this, it could be seen that the ball was not completely defenseless, and it would not allow external forces to invade the demonic fire. However, why would it allow the quiet flame, heavenly flame, to devour the demonic fire? Xiaoling Yu was puzzled, but the snake had a dejected look on its face. It had taken such a huge risk and spent so much effort to obtain the demonic fire, but it was gone just like that. Just as the master and servant were feeling depressed, the ball with thorns that was wrapped in the quiet flame, heavenly flame, suddenly jumped, and the quiet flame, heavenly flame, seemed to be constantly pierced by the thorns, its body constantly shrinking and expanding, and it was even rolling about, as if it was in extreme pain. It's finally starting to counterattack. Xiaoling Yu heaved a long sigh of relief, and then, while supporting the demon-suppressing immortal orb, he stared at the round bead with all his attention. After the time it took to brew a cup of tea, Xiaoling Yu was surprised to discover that the originally green, quiet flame, heavenly flame, was slowly turning dark red. In other words, the dark red, demonic fire that was devoured by the quiet flame, heavenly flame, was not digested by the quiet flame, heavenly flame, and at this moment, under the control of the round bead, it began to appear. The battle began once again, but the thorny bead seemed to have been enraged. It continued to release waves of strange energy fluctuations, helping the demonic fire resist and corrode the quiet flame, heavenly flame. It actually reversed the situation and seemed to have the upper hand. All right, now's the time. Devourer of heaven, you can begin to refine it. Xiaoling Yu felt that the time had come, so he patted the Devourer of Heaven's head and reminded him excitedly. The Devourer of Heaven had always believed in Xiaoling Yu, and at this moment, it was the same. It flew to the side of the 6 demon-suppressing immortal orbs, and relying on its connection with Xiaoling Yu, its dragon soul and dragon essence were able to pass through the sacred light screen cast by the demon-suppressing immortal orb and enter the 2 balls of flames that were fighting. Xiaoling Yu, on the other hand, controlled the demon-suppressing immortal orb and began to bombard the thorny bead with white light in order to suppress the power of the bead and help the Devourer of Heaven refine it. At this moment, the bead seemed to have been activated. After receiving the attack of the demon-suppressing immortal orb, it actually gave up on its battle with the quiet flame, heavenly flame. Instead, it leaped out of the 2 balls of flames and launched a counterattack against the 6 demon-suppressing immortal orbs. Xiaoling Yu's expression was a little proud. He no longer looked at the Devourer of Heaven, but wholeheartedly controlled the 6 demon-suppressing immortal orbs to block the counterattack of the thorny bead. From time to time, he would personally wave the phoenix feather to suppress the thorny bead. Chapter 119. This ball of demonic fire had originally been devoured by the hidden flame, heavenly fire, but because of the sudden power of the thorny bead, the demonic fire began to appear from the hidden flame, heavenly fire. However, due to the addition of Xiaoling Yu, the demonic fire was not separated from the hidden flame, heavenly fire, and was already being refined by the Devourer of Heaven. As a result, the Devourer of Heaven's dragon essence and dragon soul had actually invaded the hidden flame, heavenly fire, and the Devourer of Heaven's refinement was also used on the hidden flame, heavenly fire. The 2 high-level flames were entangled together. Due to the powerful devouring of the hidden flame, heavenly fire, they had almost automatically fused together. If their fusion had already been completed, with the Devourer of Heaven's strength, he would not have been able to refine it. Fortunately, they had not completely fused together, and at this moment, the 2 of them were still fighting each other, which gave the Devourer of Heaven an excellent opportunity to take advantage of. The Devourer of Heaven's refinement continued. Although it was still going smoothly, it was not something that could be completed in a short period of time. Although the thorny bead was also of extraordinary quality, facing the seal of 6 demon-suppressing immortal orbs, no matter how hard it struggled, it was unable to break free. What surprised Xiaoling Yu was that after struggling for 2 hours, the thorny bead began to slowly expand. From the looks of it, it was about to self-destruct. Xiaoling Yu had always felt that this thorny bead was a little strange, so he was a little worried that it would self-destruct. After hesitating for a moment, he took out the silver moon broken blade and fiercely slashed at the thorny bead that was sealed by the demon's suppressing immortal orbs. After all, the silver moon broken blade was a divine tool. Even if it was a damaged divine tool, its attack power was definitely not to be underestimated. The previous few times he had used this divine tool, it had always been successful. But this time there was an accident. The silver moon broken blade had firmly struck the spiked bead. Although it had instantly split it in two, in the blink of an eye, the spiked bead had actually returned to its original state. How is this possible? Xiaoling Yu was a little shocked. However, after a while, he felt relieved. He could not use the silver moon broken blade to display much power. The silver moon broken blade was only an incomparably sharp weapon in his hands. Try this. Xiaoling Yu first looked at the Devourer of Heaven. Seeing that the Devourer of Heaven's refinement situation was very good, he was relieved and took out the silver needle. Silver needle was also a divine tool, and it was a perfectly intact divine tool. Facing the thorny bead, Xiaoling Yu's silver needle, of course, and the needle of the Devourer of Heaven. Unsurprisingly, the silver needle easily pierced through the barbed bead. Furthermore, under Xiaoling Yu's careful control, the needle did not pierce through the bead entirely. Instead, the barbed bead was placed at the center of the needle. After using it a few times in the past, Xiaoling Yu knew that as long as the silver needle pierced something, it would automatically absorb the energy of that thing. However, what Xiaoling Yu did not expect was that the round bead that was pierced by the silver needle would automatically split into two after a moment, and then reassemble beside the silver needle, as if it was still intact. You can't even do that? Xiaoling Yu was shocked. The two divine tools couldn't do anything to the spiky bead, but it couldn't break free from the seal of the demon-suppressing immortal orb. This made Xiaoling Yu certain that it was a very special existence. It might not be a magic treasure, but it was definitely more troublesome than a magic treasure. Xiaoling Yu didn't know what to do with the spiky bead for a moment. He could only obediently seal it up and wait for the Devourer of Heaven to refine the demon fire before dealing with it. The Devourer of Heaven's refinement had been going very smoothly. After a full 6 days, the Devourer of Heaven had completely refined the demon fire and the quiet flame heavenly fire in one go. Although this process caused the Devourer of Heaven to lose a large amount of dragon soul and dragon essence, obtaining these two high-grade flames had already greatly increased its strength. If it could fuse these two high-grade flames together in the future, then with the power of its own flames, it would be enough to move unhindered in the cultivation world without fear. Xiaoling Yu had controlled the demon-suppressing immortal orb to seal the spiky bead for so long that he was also mentally exhausted. When the Devourer of Heaven refined the two flames and returned to the spirit beast pouch to absorb the dragon pearls from the black dragon tomb to recover, he took back the demon-suppressing immortal orb. He wanted to see what changes would happen to the spiky bead after it was unsealed. After struggling for a long time and being attacked countless times by the divine tool, the spiky bead was out of control. It trembled violently in the air and then flew towards Xiaoling Yu. Xiaoling Yu wasn't afraid at all. He waved the silver moon broken blade and slashed it. The silver moon broken blade split the spiky bead into two. The two hemispherical spheres flew away from Xiaoling Yu's left and right sides, and then slowly gathered together. The spiky bead seemed to want to attack Xiaoling Yu again. However, it was unknown if it knew that it couldn't hurt Xiaoling Yu or if it had some other reason, but it suddenly stopped and flew towards Xiaoling Yu's feet. There was a void below Xiaoling Yu's feet. However, the void was filled with flames, so there should be a world of fire at the bottom. Could it be trying to escape? Xiaoling Yu frowned slightly, but then he let out a long sigh and muttered to himself, "This thing is too strange. I can't make it submit. Since it wants to leave, let it go. It might not be a good thing to keep it by my side." Calculating the time, there was still some time before the deadline of 10 days. However, Xiaoling Yu felt that it was better for him to leave as soon as possible. After all, The serpent had even taken the Heaven Fire Hall's hidden flame, Heavenly Fire. If he had to trouble them to maintain the seal, he would feel bad. As for taking the hidden flame, Heavenly Fire, Xiaoling Yu would naturally pay a heavy price and use large amounts of precious treasures to make up for it. However, just as Xiaoling Yu was about to fly towards the seal's exit, an extremely hot aura rose from beneath his feet. In a blink of an eye, it was less than 1,000 feet away from him. As the hot aura rose, it also carried an aura that was much more powerful than the hidden flame, Heavenly Fire. It caused Xiaoling Yu's expression to change. Without any hesitation, a pair of silver wings appeared behind Xiaoling Yu. Then, with a flap of the silver wings, he transformed into a stream of light and passed through the seal's door. The hot aura chased after Xiaoling Yu and surged out of the seal's door. With a single impact, the 3 top Heaven Fire Hall experts who were waiting outside the seal's door were sent flying while spewing blood. Seeing that the hot aura was about to catch up to him and that he could not dodge it with his speed, Xiaoling Yu swung the phoenix feather behind him. What surprised Xiaoling Yu was that even the heat wave from the phoenix feather immortal artifact could not withstand the hot aura. Fortunately, the 6 demon-suppressing immortal pearls projected a sacred radiance that wrapped around his body, preventing him from being burned by the fire. Chapter 120. So it wasn't fleeing in a panic, but it discovered something. It can actually control a new high-grade flame so easily. How can there be a flame more powerful than the quiet flame, Heavenly Fire here? Xiaoling Yu looked at the strange purple flame and the spiked bead in it, and his brows tightly knitted together. Fellow Taoist, what's going on? Yin Dong asked Xiaoling Yu with a displeased expression. Fellow Taoists, don't tell me that you don't know about the existence of this purple flame. Xiaoling Yu said very calmly. When Yin Dong heard Xiaoling Yu's words, his eyes flickered slightly. The entire Quiet Flame Mountain range belonged to the Heaven Fire Hall, and it had always been so. The Heaven Fire Hall had been passed down for countless years, and although they didn't know everything about the entire Fire Spirit continent, they had a rough idea from the records left behind by their seniors. The 3 Heaven Fire Hall experts actually knew that the Quiet Flame Heavenly Fire wasn't the only heavenly fire that existed in the Quiet Flame Mountain range. There was an even more powerful heavenly fire. The reason why the 3 of them cooperated with Xiaoling Yu to borrow the Quiet Flame Heavenly Fire was actually because of this purple heavenly fire. What about the Quiet Flame Heavenly Fire? Yin Dong asked Xiaoling Yu again. I took it. Xiaoling Yu answered truthfully, and then said, I believe that the 3 of you had expected me to take the Quiet Flame Heavenly Fire, right? If the 3 of you have designs on this purple flame, then please go ahead. When Yin Dong heard this, his expression immediately became much friendlier. He said with a smile, Fellow Taoist, you are really meticulous and have seen through everything. Since you have already taken the Quiet Flame Heavenly Fire, we are happy to give it to you. Say it, what's the condition? Xiaoling Yu asked directly. His tone was still arrogant and calm. Help us take this purple heavenly fire. Yin Dong didn't beat around the bush. Even if you can take this heavenly fire, you won't be able to refine it. The spiked bead in it is very strange. If you don't handle it well, I'm afraid you'll end up worse off. Xiaoling Yu kindly reminded them. When the spiked bead was in the dark red demon fire, it should have been in a dormant state, which was why the serpent devourer of heaven could easily swallow the dark red demon fire and take it away. But now, it was obviously in an awakened state, and the flames it controlled were very powerful. Xiaoling Yu reckoned that even if he used the demon-suppressing immortal orb, he might not be able to seal it again. Fellow, you only need to lend us a hand. As for whether or not we have the opportunity to refine this purple heavenly flame, that's a matter between the 3 of us. Yin Dong seemed to be very confident as he spoke. Since that's the case, I don't mind giving it a try. But if it's impossible or too dangerous, don't blame me for running away. Xiaoling Yu nodded in response. He had just taken the nether flame heavenly fire. Now that the other party had a request and was very confident, Xiaoling Yu naturally had no reason to refuse to help. However, Xiaoling Yu also felt like he had been schemed against. The three Heaven Fire Hall experts clearly thought that he had the strength of a Nine Tribulation expert, so they gave Xiaoling Yu some benefits before asking Xiaoling Yu for help. But what they didn't know was that Xiaoling Yu wasn't a Nine Tribulation expert. Although the spiked bead controlled the purple heavenly flame to rush out of the seal, it didn't seem to have complete control over the purple heavenly flame. While Xiaoling Yu and the three Heaven Fire Hall experts were talking, the spiked bead and purple heavenly flame were very quiet. As long as you're willing to help. After Yin Dong responded, he signaled the two Seven Tribulation experts with his eyes. The three of them took out an irregular golden token at the same time. The three golden tokens were thrown to the same spot by the three Heaven Fire Hall experts. Then, they joined together and became one entity after joining. There was not a single gap to be seen. The three tokens combined together turned into a small golden shield. Then it constantly spun in the air. After a few revolutions, the golden shield's body would expand greatly. In the blink of an eye, it was already the size of a pot lid. The three Heaven Fire Hall experts also formed hand seals and sent them into the golden shield, while chanting an extremely awkward incantation. After 20 breaths of time, Yin Dong suddenly shouted. The three of them stopped forming hand seals and chanting incantations at the same time. Instead, they turned the fire attribute immortal force in their bodies into a fiery red beam of light and poured it into the golden shield. At this moment, the golden shield stopped spinning. Instead, it cast a golden light at the demonic purple heavenly flame beneath everyone's feet, completely enveloping the still calm purple heavenly flame. Fellow, if the purple heavenly flame counterattacks, please take action to suppress it. Yin Dong's gaze stared at the golden shield as he instructed Xiaoling Yu. Xiaoling Yu only made a sound of acknowledgement, but his gaze was fixed on a round bead with thorns. It was unknown what the spiked bead was, but it seemed to be able to restrain all kinds of flames in the world. Furthermore, even a divine artifact was unable to damage it. It was extremely strange and hard to fathom. As the golden light enveloped the purple heavenly flame, it was also invading the golden energy. This was likely the three Heaven Fire Hall experts refining the purple heavenly flame at the same time. In the beginning, it was very smooth. Large amounts of golden energy were constantly invading the purple heavenly flame, almost dyeing it purple gold. However, if one were to look carefully, they would discover that the flames surrounding the spiked bead were still pure purple, without any hint of gold mixed within. As expected, it's the same situation as when the Devourer of Heaven refined the dark, red, demonic fire. Xiaoling Yu thought. However, the three Heaven Fire Hall experts were fire elemental experts, so they were very familiar with the characteristics of flames. Furthermore, each of their cultivations far exceeded the Serpent Devourer of Heaven. With the help of the golden shield that was not inferior to an immortal artifact, it was possible for them to directly refine the purple heavenly flame. This continued for 4 hours before the golden light finally had a breakthrough. It had almost completely eroded the purple heavenly flame and had even touched the spiked bead. If not for the spiked bead, the golden light should have been able to refine the purple heavenly flame. However, this assumption did not exist. When the golden light touched the spiked bead, it began to pulsate. Every time it pulsated, the purple light in the heavenly flame would grow stronger, and the golden light would weaken. Even the golden shield was affected, and it began to tremble slightly. Xiaoling Yu suddenly felt a little curious. If the three Heaven Fire Hall experts had let him in because of the purple heavenly flame, how could they be so sure that the purple heavenly flame would definitely fly out after he absorbed the quiet flame, heavenly flame? They did not know that Xiaoling Yu had the dark red heavenly flame on him, nor did they know the strangeness and uniqueness of the spiked bead. It should be that as long as I absorb the quiet flame, heavenly flame, the purple heavenly flame will appear. Xiaoling Yu gave himself a rather reasonable explanation. Chapter 121. Having received the nether flame, heavenly fire, Xiaoling naturally had to help when the other party had a request. With a thought, the 6 demon-suppressing immortal beads flew out once again and circled around the heavenly fire that had turned purplish gold. Under the control of Xiaoling, the 6 demon-suppressing immortal beads constantly shot out beams of sacred white light, bombarding the constantly pulsating spiked bead. However, the spiked bead already knew the power of the 6 demon-suppressing immortal beads, so it did not rush out to fight the demon-suppressing immortal beads like before. It continued pulsating in the purplish gold flames, and the sacred white light released by the demon-suppressing immortal beads could only slightly restrict its pulsating frequency, but not completely stop it. As the spiked bead continued pulsating, the purplish gold flame's purple color became more and more obvious. As for the golden energy that had seeped into the purple heavenly fire, it was forced to seep out. At this rate, it would not be long before the spiked bead completely dispelled the golden energy in the purple heavenly fire. All the efforts the 3 Heaven Fire Hall experts had put in with the golden shield would be for naught. The 3 Heaven Fire Hall experts had gloomy expressions as their auras gradually turned chaotic. The golden shield they were controlling was trembling more and more violently. There were even cracks appearing on its surface. It was likely that it would not last much longer. Xiaoling had already taken action, but he was unable to help the 3 Heaven Fire Hall experts turn the situation around. This left the 3 Heaven Fire Hall experts extremely surprised. They were unable to refine the purple heavenly fire, even with the help of a 9th Tribulation expert. It had exceeded their expectations. According to the records in the hall, this should have been foolproof. What they did not know was that the original purple heavenly fire did not have the spiked bead. The 3 Heaven Fire Hall experts persisted for a while longer before they looked at each other. They could see the determination in each other's eyes. Following that, the 3 of them simultaneously stopped injecting their fire elemental immortal powers into the shield and changed their seals and incantations. Accompanied by their seals and incantations, the golden shield suddenly emitted a golden light. An even more powerful and domineering golden energy poured into the purple heavenly fire. Purple light and golden light intertwined around the spiked bead. In the beginning, they were evenly matched, but gradually, the golden light took the initiative once again. What surprised Xiaoling was not that the golden light had gained the upper hand once again, but that the golden shield was shrinking in size. It was as though the golden light was being drained to such an extent that its body was gradually being annihilated. From the looks of it, the 3 Heaven Fire Hall experts were staking it all on. To refine, the purple heavenly fire was, they did not hesitate to lose such a high-grade shield artifact. Even so, I'm afraid it won't work. Even a divine artifact can't do anything to the thorny bead. I'm afraid it will be futile even if I rely on the full power of an immortal artifact. Xiaoling had some understanding of the thorny bead. At this moment, he sighed and thought to himself. In the time it took to finish a cup of tea, the golden shield had completely disappeared. There was no longer any golden light that invaded the heavenly fire. However, the efforts of the 3 Heaven Fire Hall experts did not seem to be in vain. After the golden shield was reduced to ashes, the heavenly fire had turned completely golden. It looked like a golden sun. The 3 Heaven Fire Hall experts had even more solemn expressions. The seals in their hands and the incantations from their mouths never stopped. However, they were now more hurried and filled with mystery. The seals transformed into golden or purple flames that dazzled the eyes. The incantations were like sorrowful war songs from ancient battlefields, causing one's blood to boil and emotions to surge. Under the influence of the seals and incantations, the golden light that controlled the heavenly fire continuously turned into small fire snakes, and all of them rushed towards the spiky bead. In addition to the sacred white light attack from the demon-suppressing immortal orb, although the spiky bead was not damaged, it was firmly fixed in place, unable to move at all. And at this moment, Yindong was constantly spewing out blobs of blood essence. At the same time, He was permeating his soul power into the blobs of blood essence, allowing them to invade the heavenly fire that was overflowing with golden light. Xiao Yu knew that Yin Dong was attempting to truly refine the heavenly fire. The reason why the sky-swallowing python was able to refine the demonic fire and quiet flame heavenly fire was actually because Xiao Yu had controlled the spiked bead. The current situation seemed to be the same as before. The spiked bead was powerless to resist. The originally purple heavenly fire would probably be refined by Yin Tong. After all, it was an 8th tribulation expert and 2 7th tribulation experts working together. Furthermore, they had the help of an immortal artifact. They had prepared for many years and understood the purple heavenly fire through the Heaven Fire Hall's records. It was not surprising that they were able to refine it successfully. Furthermore, they had Xiao Yu's supreme great immortal artifact to assist them. After a total of 3 days, Yin Dong finally stopped. After a loud shout, he successfully opened his mouth and swallowed the heavenly fire into his stomach. At this moment, there was no longer any golden light in the heavenly fire. As for the heavenly fire hall with the heavenly fire, it was still surrounded by layers of golden energy and was constantly being attacked by the demon suppressing immortal orb. Although Yin Dong succeeded, he had lost a large amount of essence blood and soul energy. He was also very weak. At this moment, his battle power was probably not even comparable to a 6th tribulation loose immortal. Xiao Yu was not in a good state either. Previously, when he helped the serpent, he had continuously activated the demon-suppressing immortal orb for many days. After that, he did not have time to recover and recuperate before continuing to exert his strength. At this moment, not only did he only have 30% of his strength left, even his head was dizzy. Just as Yin Dong had just collected the purple heavenly fire, the spiked bead seemed to be very unwilling to give up. In an instant, its body swelled by more than 10 times. At the same time, it released a powerful aura fluctuation, causing the surrounding golden energy to scatter. Then, the heavenly fire hall with the heavenly fire hall with the heavenly fire hall flying towards Yin Dong. At this moment, Yin Dong's reaction seemed to be a lot slower. When he exclaimed, before he could dodge, the heavenly fire hall with the heavenly fire hall had already hit his body. Fortunately, a red armor that was clearly of high quality suddenly appeared on his body. It helped him block most of the impact of the heavenly fire hall with the heavenly fire hall. He only took a few steps back and spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. He did not suffer any heavy injuries. However, the heavenly fire hall with the heavenly fire hall with the heavenly fire hall. However, the heavenly fire hall with the heavenly fire hall with the heavenly fire hall with the heavenly fire hall. Unfortunately, Xiao Yu quickly arrived beside Yin Dong and swung the silver moon broken blade to split the heavenly fire hall with the heavenly fire hall. When the heavenly fire hall with the heavenly fire hall gathered together again, the 6 demon suppressing immortal orbs surrounded it. Thank you for your help, fellow Taoist. If you need our heavenly fire hall's help in the future, please speak your mind. We will definitely not refuse. Yin Dong calmed down his aura and said very sincerely. He knew that if the expert in front of him did not use a powerful immortal artifact to suppress the strange heavenly fire hall, even if the 3 of them risked their lives, it would be very difficult for them to refine the heavenly fire hall. Moreover, they might not be able to deal with the heavenly fire hall with the heavenly fire hall. Hee, fellow Taoist, there's no need to be so polite. I took the heavenly fire hall's quiet flame heavenly fire hall, so I naturally have to help you. This way, we're even. You don't owe me anything. Xiao Yu said with a generous smile. Chapter 122. Xiao Yu didn't know how to deal with this thorny bead. If he had a way, he would have already acted earlier. Just as Xiao Yu was hesitating, the thorny bead gradually calmed down and stopped trying to struggle. It was unknown if it was because it was exhausted from the repeated battles or because it was disheartened from losing the high-grade heavenly flame again. Xiao Yu put away the 6 demon suppressing immortal pearls. He was originally prepared to give up on this thorny bead and let it choose its own place to go. From then on, he would have nothing to do with it. But what he didn't expect was that the thorny bead only quietly floated there and didn't move at all. Xiao Yu carried the silver moon broken blade and carefully walked to the side of the thorny bead with full vigilance. After that, he took out a jade box and placed it into the jade box very easily. Since it's so cooperative, why don't I keep it? Thinking like this, Xiao Yu didn't hesitate any longer and put the jade box into his storage magic treasure. Although the purple heavenly flame was high grade, Xiao Yu wasn't a fire-type cultivator after all. Moreover, his own primal chaos true flame would definitely be very powerful in the future. He didn't mind helping Yin Dong. Once the demon fire refined by the serpent devourer of heaven and the hidden flame heavenly flame fused together, its might not be inferior to the purple heavenly flame. Most importantly, the purple heavenly flame had already been refined by Yin Dong, an 8th tribulation expert. Even if Xiao Yu wanted to get a share, he had to first consider whether his strength was enough. The harvest of this trip was already not small, and Xiao Yu had nothing to be dissatisfied with. He immediately followed Yin Dong and the other two along the stone steps to the entrance of the mountaintop. As for the original plan of using the hidden flame, heavenly flame, to refine some special materials, he naturally couldn't follow the plan. However, the hidden flame, heavenly flame, already belonged to the serpent. In the future, he could let Xiao Yu use it at any time. There was no need for him to be anxious. When everyone returned to the hall with the miniature teleportation formation, before the teleportation formation was activated, Yin Dong suddenly took out a communication spiritual pearl because the communication spiritual pearl was trembling. His immortal sense sank into the communication spiritual pearl to check. Yin Dong couldn't help but frown and said angrily, "Shui Qing Gru is too presumptuous. Our Heaven Fire Hall hasn't done anything to their water spirit continent for many years. How dare she come to our fire spirit continent to rob us?" After putting away the communication spiritual pearl, Yin Dong brought everyone to the first floor of the tower outside of the Hidden Flame Mountain range. With due. If you have time to come to the fire spirit continent before you ascend to the immortal world, I'll definitely welcome you, Yin Dong said courteously. Then, he brought the two 7th tribulation experts and left in a hurry. Something big must have happened to the fire spirit continent or the Heaven Fire Hall. Xiao Yu didn't stay in the fire spirit continent for long. What he lacked the most now was time. After leaving the fire spirit continent, Xiao Yu went to the water spirit continent. The reason why he went to the water spirit continent was because the shortest route from the fire spirit continent to the thunder continent was through the water spirit continent. The thunder continent was the most important continent Xiao Yu had to go to before his tribulation. He needed to go to the thunder continent to find a material that could increase his chances of passing the chaos tribulation. While he was on his way, Xiao Yu put the material he needed into the spirit beast pouch. He had the serpent use the hidden flame, heavenly fire, to help him purify the material. Even if he was in a hurry, Xiao Yu didn't leave immediately after reaching a continent. Instead, he spent some time using the tracing spirit mirror to find traces of his parents. After 2 days of teleportation, Xiao Yu finally arrived at the water spirit continent. As usual, he flew out of the teleportation plaza and activated the tracing spirit mirror. He still didn't find anything, so he returned to the teleportation plaza. However, he didn't expect that when he returned to the teleportation plaza, he would find that the interstellar teleportation array of the water spirit continent had been sealed. Countless cultivators, waiting to be teleported, were asking each other questions in the teleportation plaza. There were also some cultivators who were in a hurry to leave who were cursing loudly. A cultivation continent had to give everyone an explanation for suddenly closing an interstellar teleportation array. In fact, the Water Spirit Hall, which was in charge of the entire Water Spirit continent, gave an explanation. The Water Spirit continent's interstellar teleportation array had malfunctioned and needed to be repaired for a period of time. Therefore, it was temporarily closed. Not many cultivators believed this explanation, because the teleportation array had been fine just now. There were no signs of malfunctioning at all. Then, something even more surprising happened. Groups of powerful cultivators flew to the teleportation plaza from all directions. Not only did they disperse all the cultivators waiting on the plaza, they also surrounded the teleportation array vigilantly. There was no lack of fifth tribulation and sixth tribulation cultivators among them. Xiaoling's brows furrowed as he looked at the situation. Although he wasn't in a hurry, he didn't have much time to waste. However, there was nothing he could say about others wanting to repair the teleportation array. He could only wait patiently. Several hours later, Xiaoling, who had been waiting near the teleportation plaza, suddenly discovered that the teleportation array that was surrounded by countless cultivators was flashing with white light. Clearly, someone was using the teleportation array. This phenomenon was seen by many cultivators waiting to be teleported. They all came forward to ask about it, but no one answered. Since there were so many cultivators around the teleportation array, no one dared to force their way in. They could only curse and wait. Xiaolingyu walked up to a fourth tribulation cultivator with a cold expression and said, "The teleportation array is fine. Please make an exception. I have something urgent to do." The fourth tribulation, loose, immortal, glanced at Xiaolingyu. Seeing that Xiaolingyu was young and didn't exude a strong aura, he said coldly, "The teleportation array is temporarily closed. If you want to use it, you can wait aside." "How long do I have to wait?" Xiaolingyu asked. "You can wait as long as it's closed." "To be honest, I don't know the exact time," the fourth tribulation, loose immortal, said impatiently. He really didn't know. He just received a sudden message and was asked to come here with his subordinates. He didn't know anything else. "So, the teleportation array will be closed indefinitely? What's going on?" Xiaolingyu asked unhappily. "Get lost. Why are you talking so much nonsense?" The fourth tribulation, loose immortal, had completely lost his patience. He waved his arm and a vigorous aura gushed out. Chapter 123. After Xiaolingyu stabilized himself, he let out a cold snort, and his face gradually turned gloomy. The four tribulation bodiless celestial said arrogantly, "This is just a small lesson. The entire water spirit continent is under the control of the water spirit palace. We don't have to explain to you why we want to close the teleportation formation. If you continue to cause trouble, you might attract trouble." Since the water spirit palace was the master of the water spirit continent, there was no need for them to be courteous to other cultivators. "I think you've suffered too little." Xiaolingyu narrowed his eyes as his body flashed and appeared next to the four tribulation bodiless celestial. "You? Ah." Before the four tribulation bodiless celestial could react, he felt a sharp pain in his lower abdomen. His body flew backward involuntarily as he cried out in pain. Just a moment ago, Xiaolingyu had kicked the four tribulation bodiless celestial's lower abdomen. After a short moment, Xiaolingyu was surrounded by a group of water spirit palace experts. The cultivators waiting outside the teleportation formation all looked over in unison. Everyone stopped. Just as the water spirit palace cultivators were about to attack Xiaolingyu, a dignified voice rang out. Following that, an old man with a white beard and a blue robe slowly walked over. Xiaolingyu could vaguely sense the old man's cultivation base was at the sixth tribulation bodiless celestial stage. He was considered the strongest cultivator in the teleportation formation square. Therefore, he was not too nervous. The sixth tribulation bodiless celestial cupped his fist and asked Xiaolingyu politely, "Fellow cultivator, may I know why you attacked a fellow cultivator of the water spirit palace?" The sixth tribulation bodiless celestial was not a reckless person. In his opinion, a cultivator who could send a four tribulation bodiless celestial flying with a kick was definitely not weaker than a sixth tribulation bodiless celestial. Xiaolingyu replied indifferently, "Because his mouth stinks. He thinks he can scold people as he pleases on the water spirit continent. He doesn't know that the water spirit continent isn't the only place in the cultivation world." The four tribulation bodiless celestial flew back and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth as he said angrily, "Third elder, since this person dares to attack us here, it's obvious he's deliberately causing trouble and doesn't respect the Water Spirit Palace. Third elder, please protect the dignity of the Water Spirit Palace. Weren't you very arrogant just a moment ago? Why don't you do it yourself?" Xiao Yu's expression, S4 tribulation bodiless celestial. The bodiless celestial's celestial. He was the four tribulation bodiless celestial. You, the bodiless celestial, the bodiless celestial. He did Xiao Yu didn't was Ling Yu's was who? Fellow cultivator, I think you want to leave the Water Spirit continent by using the teleportation formation. However, unfortunately, the teleportation formation has to be closed for the time being. Fellow cultivator, please bear with it for a while. The teleportation formation will be reopened in 3 days or less. Naturally, the sixth tribulation bodiless celestial did not blame Xiao Yu and did not attack him. Instead, he changed the topic and glared at the four tribulation bodiless celestial, indicating that he should stop talking. As long as it's not closed for an indefinite period, I can still wait for 2 or 3 days. Xiao Yu had already vented his anger, so he nodded in agreement. So what if you can't wait? Even if you can't wait, you still have to wait. You look arrogant, but you're just someone who bullies the weak and fears the strong. When Xiao Yu was about to turn around and wait outside the teleportation formation, the four tribulation bodiless celestial spoke again. Therefore, as soon as Xiao Yu turned around, he suddenly turned back and grinned at the four tribulation bodiless celestial with a strange light in his eyes. The blue-robed old man's heart skipped a beat as he cursed inwardly. However, before he could say anything, the young and handsome cultivator had already made his move. A silver light flashed in front of his eyes before he heard the miserable shriek of the four tribulation bodiless celestial. How fast? The sixth tribulation bodiless celestial was shocked. When he looked over, he vaguely saw a pair of silver wings flashing behind the young cultivator. The atmosphere in the teleportation formation square became tense again. The experts of the Water Spirit Hall stared at Xiao Yu, as if they were facing a formidable enemy. At this moment, Xiao Yu grabbed the four tribulation bodiless celestial's collar. There was an obvious handprint on the four tribulation bodiless celestial's face, and his cheeks were swollen. There were also bloodstains on the corners of his mouth. Apparently, he had been slapped by Xiao Yu. "Are you satisfied that I beat you up in front of your third elder?" Xiao Yu asked calmly, as if what he had just done was insignificant. It was as if this was not the Water Spirit continent, but his territory. As he met more and more experts and killed more and more experts, Xiao Yu had no reason to be courteous to a fourth tribulation loose immortal. He also had no reason to fear the Water Spirit Hall, even though he knew there was a seventh tribulation expert in the Water Spirit Hall before he came. At this moment, the sixth tribulation bodiless celestial finally arrived in front of Xiao Yu and said with a hint of panic, "Fellow Taoist, please calm down. You're just a piece of trash." Xiao Yu loosened his grip. The four tribulation bodiless celestial seemed to be too frightened and fell to the ground weakly. He stared at Xiao Yu in horror. The four tribulation bodiless celestial did not expect that he had offended such a decisive person. Moreover, this person did not seem to be afraid of the Water Spirit Hall at all and even regarded him as a piece of trash. "Fellow Taoist, you're really arrogant. Since a four tribulation bodiless celestial is regarded as a piece of trash by you, I, Shui Qingro, would like to ask for your guidance." Just as the sixth tribulation bodiless celestial was about to explain himself, a woman's voice rang out from the transporting formation. When Xiao Yu slapped the four tribulation bodiless celestial, the transporting formation flashed with white light, and several cultivators arrived. The woman who spoke was one of them. Xiao Yu looked in the direction of the voice and saw a woman in a blue dress walking over slowly while being surrounded by a group of people. The woman looked to be in her 20s. She had a beautiful appearance and a graceful figure, but her face was a little pale, as if she had not recovered from a serious illness. However, there was a sense of confidence and dignity between her brows, which made people feel a sense of reverence when they saw her, not daring to have the slightest intention of blasphemy. When Xiao Lingyu saw the experts of the Water Spirit Hall surrounding her like stars surrounding the moon, she could not help but think of a word. Empress. Shui Qingro. This name sounded familiar. Xiao Lingyu frowned, and then remembered that Yin Tong seemed to have mentioned her once in the hidden flame mountain range of the Fire Spirit continent. At that time, Yin Tong's expression was very angry. Even if fellow Taoist Shui wants to ask for advice, you should first recuperate from your injuries. That Fire Spirit continent's Yin Dong has an 8th tribulation cultivation. Moreover, he has just obtained a powerful purple heavenly flame. I believe that fellow Taoist Shui suffered quite a bit of a loss when fighting with him, right? You must have suffered a lot from him. Xiao Lingyu did not bow and only glanced at Shui Qingro as if she was an expert. Chapter 124. Seeing Shui Qingro's expression, Xiao Lingyu was secretly happy. He knew his guess was right, so he said in a very high-profile manner, "Since you've returned safely, please open the teleportation formation." Not all cultivators are patient. The Water Spirit Hall cultivators were a bit unhappy with Xiao Lingyu's words, but since their Hall Lord Shui Qingro didn't say anything, they didn't dare to say anything. Haha, since you've come to Water Spirit Continent, please stay for a few days so that I can do my best as a host. Shui Qingro said with a smile. Her attitude seemed to have changed completely. With just a few words, Xiao Lingyu was able to change the attitude of the Hall Master who was about to attack. This naturally shocked the other Water Spirit Hall cultivators. When they looked at Xiao Lingyu again, not only were they surprised, but they were also in awe. As for the 4 Tribulation Lu Celestial, he originally wanted to tell the Palace Master about the crime the arrogant young cultivator had just committed, but now he couldn't help but worry about himself. At the same time, he quietly hid among the guards and didn't dare to show his head again. No, I've been really busy recently. I've already wasted a lot of time on Fire Spirit Continent. I don't want to waste any more time. Xiao Lingyu waved his hand and refused. Dao friend, don't be in a rush to leave. I have a good thing here. Maybe Dao friend will be interested. Shui Qingro transmitted to Xiao Lingyu. Haha, I don't lack anything good right now. I just lack time. Xiao Lingyu replied with a smile. Qingro knows Dao friend doesn't have much time in the cultivation world, so I'm in a rush. But for an expert like Dao friend who's about to reach the immortal world, it's not a small fortune. Dao friend, don't you want to listen to it first before deciding whether to stay or not? Shui Qingro transmitted again. The temptation was very obvious. Shui Qingru also treated Xiao Lingyu as a 9 calamity expert, because from her point of view, to be able to know Yin Tong's true situation and to know that Yin Tong had just obtained the purple heavenly flame, she must be a 9 calamity expert without a doubt. Moreover, this 9 calamity expert must have been aided by Yin Tong's purple heavenly flame. Although the Water Spirit Continent and the Fire Spirit Continent were not like fire and water, they were secretly fighting each other. Naturally, they knew each other's strengths and weaknesses. As the Hall Master of the Water Spirit Hall, Shui Qingru was able to learn of some of the Heaven Fire Hall's secrets through special channels and means. Xiao Lingyu pretended to ponder for a moment before replying. Fellow Water Taoist, since you've said so, even if I don't have the time, I'll listen to what you have to say out of curiosity. Fellow Water Taoist, we're all smart people. Stop beating around the bush and get straight to the point. There are a lot of people here. Dao friend, please come to my humble abode first. You can drink some tea while listening to Qingro. With Dao friend cultivation, you shouldn't be afraid that Qingro has some tricks up her sleeves, right? Shui Qingro replied. Kiki, I think fellow Water Taoist injuries aren't stable yet. You need to find a place to heal, right? That's good too. Please lead the way. Xiao Lingyu smiled and said, Dao friend's eyes are really sharp. Shui Qingru smiled bitterly and said to the 3rd elder, continue to seal the teleportation formation. Without my orders, no one is allowed to leave or teleport in. Yes, the 3rd elder respectfully replied. and then watched as the Hall Master led the young cultivator away. Third Elder, that fella. No, that senior, what's his background? After Shaolin Yu left, the four tribulation bodiless celestial who still had the handprint on his face stood up and asked anxiously, I don't know, but I'm sure his background is very big. He's probably stronger than the Hall Master. The third Elder shook his head. What? Stronger than the Hall Master? It's over, it's over. The four tribulation loose immortal was first terrified and then in despair. Don't look like that. You're just trash in his eyes. He already taught you a lesson. With his status and strength, he would even reject the Hall Master's invitation. Why would he care about you? The third Elder glanced at the four tribulation scattered celestial. After all, he had worked with him for many years, so he comforted him. Shaolin Yu, indeed, didn't care about the four tribulation loose immortal. He was just a bit curious. What good thing was Shui Qingru waiting for him? He didn't have much time to waste. But if he didn't act fearless and didn't care about the good thing, he would be suspicious. Shaolin Yu was a fake ninth tribulation expert, but he didn't have the strength to face so many experts of the Water Spear Hall and the Transmission Formation Square. More importantly, he needed the permission of the Water Spear Hall to teleport. Anyway, there's nothing wrong with taking a look. Maybe there really is something good. Shaolin Yu comforted himself, so he followed Shui Qingru calmly. Shui Qingru didn't bring any other Water Spear Hall experts with her. Maybe because she was injured, her speed wasn't fast. Shaolin Yu also followed with ease. After a cup of tea's time, Shui Qingru brought Shaolin Yu to the ocean. Then they continued to fly towards the depths of the ocean. Shaolin Yu knew that 90% of Water Spirit Continent was an endless ocean. The place where the teleportation formation was located was only a slightly bigger island. After flying for 4 hours, Shui Qingru stopped on an island. Then she brought Shaolin Yu to the island. The area of this island was not large, but there were several smaller islands surrounding it. The islands seemed to form a natural array. Shaolin Yu's attainments in array formations were not high, so he could not see the clues of this natural array, but he secretly paid attention to it. There was a valley in the middle of the island. There were no fluctuations of formations or restrictions around the valley. Moreover, it looked like a paradise with birds chirping and flowers blooming. It was definitely a good place to concentrate on cultivation. There was a small courtyard in the valley. It should be where Shui Qingru lived and cultivated. Shui Qingru first invited Shaolin Yu to a living room in the courtyard. Then she said, Dao friend, please wait for a moment. After Shaolin Yu nodded, Shui Qingru went upstairs. Shaolin Yu guessed that she should be recuperating. But what Shaolin Yu didn't expect was that she came back down in less than the time it took to brew a cup of tea. Moreover, her face didn't have any trace of paleness. Her entire body seemed to have recovered to its peak in this short period of time. However, Shaolin Yu soon felt relieved. He knew very well that water cultivators cultivated water cultivation methods. After they were injured, their recovery speed was much faster than other types of cultivators. Moreover, water cultivators used water cultivation methods to refine medicinal pills that had miraculous healing effects. I'm sorry for making Dao friend wait. Shui Qingru bowed and said apologetically, Kiki, this bit of time isn't much. But since Dao friend Shui has recovered, then please tell me about the good thing. Shaolin Yu smiled and said. Shui Qingru nodded and sat down. Dao friend knows that I just went to Fire Spirit Continent. I'm sure Dao friend is confused. I'm a water element cultivator, so why would I go to Fire Spirit Continent? After all, Fire Spirit Continent's overall power is far greater than our Water Spirit Continent. Their Heaven Fire Hall Lord Yin Tong is an 8 tribulation expert. Even if Yin Tong didn't get the purple heaven flame, I wouldn't be his match. Chapter 125. The Fire Spirit Continent doesn't have anything that we water cultivators need. However, there is an important place in the Heaven Fire Hall that has the Blue Moon Extreme Firestone. The Blue Moon Extreme Firestone is a fire-type material, but fire-type cultivators don't know how to use it. Even Yin Dong of the Heaven Fire Hall doesn't know. Shui Qingru nodded and smiled. If that's the case, then the Blue Moon Extreme Firestone must be in Taoist Shui's hands. Moreover, Taoist Shui should know how to use it. Xiaoling Yu said, our Water Spirit Hall also has a very special stone called the Red Sun Extreme Firestone. Although it's also a water-type material, our Water Spirit Hall is unable to use it to refine magic treasures or other uses. Shui Qingru continued, if I'm not wrong, the Blue Moon Extreme Firestone and the Red Sun Extreme Firestone will be very useful together. Xiaoling Yu rubbed his chin and guessed. Taoist is indeed a peak expert in the cultivation world. Nothing can be hidden from a knowledgeable Taoist like you. Shui Qingru said with a hint of flattery. If Taoist Shui didn't say that, I wouldn't have such a thought. However, the names of these two stones are indeed strange. The Blue Moon should be a water-type material, but it's placed in the fire-type material. As for the Red Sun, it should be a fire-type material, but it's also strangely placed in the water-type material. Xiaoling Yu waved his hand and smiled. The Blue Moon Extreme Firestone is completely azure and looks like a small crescent moon. The Red Sun Extreme Firestone is completely fiery red and looks flat and round. At first glance, it looks like a red sun. These two materials can't be used alone. Only by gathering them together and refining them can one refine a high-level source energy that has both fire and water attributes. As long as this high-level source energy is refined, it will allow a cultivator to have both fire and water attributes. Shui Qingru calmly explained, if there's such a miraculous thing, then I must congratulate Taoist Shui. Xiaoling Yu cupped his hands and said, this isn't a happy occasion. Shui Qingru smiled bitterly and shook her head. She continued to explain, to have both fire and water attributes, one would need to cultivate two different cultivation systems. Even though this can increase a cultivator's strength by several folds, making one almost invincible among cultivators of the same level, the cultivation time would also be twice as long as normal cultivators. When facing the Heaven Tribulation, the power of the Heaven Tribulation would also be stronger. Even if one obtained both the Blue Moon Extreme Firestone and Red Sun Extreme Water Stone, normal cultivators wouldn't dare to have two attributes. That's true. Xiaoling Yu nodded in agreement. This is especially true for loose immortals. Their bodies are formed from one type of energy to begin with, so it's impossible for them to possess another type of energy. Moreover, the heavenly tribulations of loose immortals are more numerous. Loose immortals' cultivation is already incomparably difficult. If the heavenly tribulations are multiplied, there's no way for them to survive. Shui Qingru sighed helplessly. I believe fellow Taoist Shui must have other plans for taking the risk to steal the Blue Moon Extreme Firestone from the Heaven Fire Hall, right? Xiaoling Yu asked. That's right. In our Water Spirit continent, there's a place that has been sealed for many years. It requires the Blue Moon Extreme Firestone and Red Sun Extreme Water Stone to open it. Only our Water Spirit Hall's Hall Masters have the qualifications to know about this matter. The Heaven Fire Hall knows nothing about it. However, because the Water Spirit Hall's strength has always been inferior to the Heaven Fire Hall, we didn't dare to openly steal the Blue Moon Extreme Firestone from the Heaven Fire Hall. We could only send people to hide in the Heaven Fire Hall and wait for an opportunity to strike. Just a few days ago, I received news that the three top experts of the Heaven Fire Hall had all gone to the Quiet Flame Mountain Range. I felt that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, so I went to snatch it. Shui Qingru said with a smug expression. Fellow Taoist Shui must have sealed the teleportation array because you're worried that Yin Dong and the other experts of the Heaven Fire Hall would come looking for trouble, right? Xiaoling Yu asked. Yes, that Yin Dong is an 8th tribulation expert. Now that he has obtained an extremely powerful heaven fire, our Water Spirit Hall wouldn't be able to stop him if he were to lead a group of people here. Shui Qingru replied gloomily. If fellow Taoist Shui really has something good to do, I can help you mediate after it's done. I believe that Yin Dong will still give me face. Xiaoling Yu's expression was calm, but there was a sense of confidence when he said this. That's naturally for the best. Qingru will first thank fellow Taoist. Shui Qingru quickly stood up and prepared to thank him. Xiaoling Yu also stood up and helped her up. He said, "Fellow Taoist Shui, there's no need to be in such a hurry to thank me. If the good thing that fellow Taoist Shui is talking about is just a reflection of the moon, then I won't waste my breath talking about it. After all, Yin Dong and I have a pretty good relationship. When I was in the fire spirit continent, he also gave me some benefits. Fellow Taoist, don't worry. Even if Qing Gru had 10,000 guts, I wouldn't dare to use this to deceive you." Shui Qing Gru said very honestly. "Right now, I still have many things to do. If fellow Taoist Shui's injuries have healed, then there's no time to lose. We can move now." Xiaoling Yu didn't hide anything and urged, "Okay, fellow Taoist, please follow me." After this is done, Qingru will invite fellow Taoists to enjoy the delicacies of my water spirit continent. Shui Qingru wasn't someone who liked to dawdle. She immediately brought Xiaoling Yu away from the island and continued to fly towards the depths of the ocean. The ocean of the water spirit continent was truly incomparably vast. Even with Shui Qingru and Xiaoling Yu's speed, they still had to fly for over 20 hours before reaching their destination in the depths of the ocean. This was an archipelago made up of countless small islands. These small islands were like resplendent pearls that were densely packed on the blue ocean surface. However, if one looked carefully, one would notice that there were two very special islands in the archipelago. One was shaped like a crescent moon, and the other was shaped like a disc. Shui Qingru first landed on the crescent moon island. Then, she easily found a cave and brought Xiaoling Yu into it. Finally, they stopped at a stone wall at the end of the cave. Along the way, Shui Qingru didn't know how many layers of restrictions were opened. It could be seen how tight the defenses of this cave were. In front of the stone wall, there was an old man sitting cross-legged on a praying mat. Only when Xiaoling Yu and Shui Qingru arrived did he slowly open his eyes. "Greetings, Palace Lord." The old man stood up and bowed slightly. "Second Elder, there's no need to be so polite." Shui Qingru cupped her fists and returned the greeting. Then, she said, "Today I came to open the Sun-Moon Star Curtain. This is the Red Sun Water Spirit Stone. In a while, I will send out a signal to the Great Elder. I will have to trouble the Second Elder to place the Red Sun Water Spirit Stone in the correct position after receiving the signal." In Shui Qingru's hand, there was already a fiery red round stone the size of a palm. Xiaoling Yu's eyes were sharp and sharp. She had already noticed that there was a circular groove on the stone wall. That should be the correct position that Shui Qingru spoke of. Could it be that Palace Lord has already obtained the Blue Moon Star Fire Spirit Stone? After receiving the Red Sun Water Spirit Stone, the Second Elder asked in shock and excitement, "Huh, without the Blue Moon Star Fire Spirit Stone, how can I open the Sun Moon Star Curtain?" Shui Qingru smiled and replied. Chapter 126. The Second Elder of Water Spirit Hall was a sixth tribulation bodiless immortal like the Third Elder. However, their Grand Elder was a seven tribulation bodiless immortal like Shui Qingru. The Great Elder had always been guarding this archipelago, protecting the Sun-Moon Star Curtain. Therefore, only a few big shots in the Water Spirit Hall knew about his existence and cultivation base. On the surface, the Water Spirit Hall only had one seventh tribulation loose immortal, Shui Qingru. The Great Elder was meditating in seclusion at the end of a cave on the disc-shaped island. There was also a stone wall behind him, and there was a crescent-shaped groove on the wall. It should be where the Blue Moon Supreme Firestone was located. Shui Qingru took out a blue crescent-shaped rock and handed it over to the Great Elder. She then repeated what she said to the Second Great Elder. It was unknown whether it was because he had been guarding the Blue Moon Supreme Firestone for too long that his heart had turned to ashes, or because his mental state was too high. In any case, when he received the Blue Moon Supreme Firestone, his expression didn't change much. He only looked at Xiaoling Yu with some vigilance, but he didn't ask any questions. It was as if he wouldn't question any of Shui Qingru's choices. After that, Shui Qingru brought Xiaoling Yu out of the cave where the Great Elder was. Then, they flew above the archipelago. After taking a deep breath, Shui Qingru said to Shaolin Yu, "In a while, the Sun Moon Supreme Firestone will appear and open. I don't know what's inside. If we encounter any danger inside, please help us." Haha, I won't shirk my duty. However, if it's beyond my ability, then Qingru can only blame herself for being unlucky. Before Shaolin Yu could finish, Shui Qingru continued with a calm and magnanimous look. Then, Shui Qingru took out a blue bead and threw it into the air. She casually sent a ray of blue light into the bead. The bead immediately exploded and turned into a sky full of blue light. At the same time, a ring-shaped ripple spread in all directions. Shaolin Yu knew this was Shui Qingru's signal. Sure enough, a few moments later, the crescent moon island and the disc-shaped island began to shake at the same time. Then, they emitted a blue light and a red light at the same time. However, the blue light seemed to be a bit hot, while the red light seemed to be very cold. The red and blue lights intertwined in the air and then spread out a colorful radiance. The radiance covered the entire archipelago, and it was like a meteor shower. The scene was magnificent, dazzling, and at the same time intoxicating. At this time, the second elder and great elder of the Water Spirit Hall flew out from their respective caves and hovered behind Shui Qingru. Their expressions were very solemn and somewhat expectant. After about the time it took to brew a cup of tea, the small islands that were covered by the brilliant light actually had a bit of starlight slowly rise into the sky. Then, they gathered together, forming a curtain of stars made up of countless starlight. 2 hours later, a blue crescent moon and a red sun flew out from the crescent moon island and the circular island respectively. They were especially dazzling amongst the stars. This should be the sun-moon star curtain. It's really a bit magical. Shaolin Yu narrowed her eyes and praised in her heart. Shui Qingru calmed down her agitated emotions. Then, she flew to the front of the sun, moon, and stars curtain. Her hands formed 2 sets of different hand seals. Then, she sent the hand seals into the crescent moon and sun. Then, she started to chant like she was praying. The crescent moon and the sun spun at the same time, pulling the starlight around them. Gradually, a thin line was drawn in the center of the sun-moon star curtain. Then, the thin line slowly expanded and formed a large door. The sun-moon star curtain has been opened. Great Elder, follow me in. I'll have to trouble second Elder to guard outside. After shouting, Shui Qingru looked at Shaolin Yu, and then she flew through the door. The Great Elder of the Water Spirit Hall followed closely behind. Shui Qingru didn't let second Elder follow. This made second Elder's excited face turn into depression. However, he didn't have the slightest bit of resentment. Firstly, his cultivation was slightly weaker, and secondly, he didn't need someone to guard outside. Shaolin Yu hesitated for a moment and stared at the door for a while, but he didn't see anything. This made him feel a bit uncertain. Ever since he started cultivating, Shaolin Yu hated this kind of situation where he couldn't control or predict what would happen next. Moreover, they had already reached this step, and Shaolin Yu didn't do much. Then why did Shui Qingru invite him? This question made Shaolin Yu feel a bit uneasy. There must be a lot of danger inside. Shui Qingru is sure that I'm a ninth tribulation expert, so she invited me to help them. If it goes smoothly, I will definitely receive a lot of benefits. But if it doesn't go smoothly, then I will expose my true strength, and I won't even be able to bring my life out of this door. However, since the 2 of them dared to go in, then I shouldn't be too careful. After thinking for a while, Shaolin Yu flew through the door under the gaze of second Elder. What made Shaolin Yu surprised was that behind the door was a void. In the distant void, there was a ball of blue light and a ball of fire. Looking over, there was only these 2 balls of light. Everywhere else was a void, and there was nothing else. Shui Qingru and the Great Elder of the Water Spirit Hall were still at the entrance. When Shaolin Yu came in, Shui Qingru said, "The thing in the ball of blue light is what our Water Spirit Hall needs. As for the thing in the ball of fire, it belongs to you. Of course, the precondition is that there might be danger in a while. You must use all your strength to defend against it. If even you can't defend against it, then you can leave. That's right. If you don't need me at all, then that's not right. Xiao Lingyu nodded towards Shui Qingru. Seeing Xiao Lingyu nod his head, Shui Qingru took the lead and flew towards the two balls of light. However, as she flew, she took out a jade tablet. A blue water screen shot out from the jade tablet and covered her body. Furthermore, there was a shining blue immortal armor on her body. That great elder also had a jade tablet on top of his head. His entire body was also covered by the blue water screen. However, the quality of his armor shouldn't be as good as Shui Qingru's. Thus, he opened his mouth and spat out a magic treasure that looked like a bronze bell. Since they were so cautious, Xiao Lingyu naturally wouldn't be careless. Immediately, 6 demon-suppressing immortal pearls appeared above his head and shot out a circle of divine radiance. In his right hand, he held the phoenix feather and even the silver moon broken blade in his left hand. Seeing Xiao Lingyu's 2 high-quality immortal equipment, Shui Qingru praised in her heart, as expected of a 9th tribulation expert. He could casually take out 2 immortal equipment. Moreover, their quality isn't low either. That great elder thought to himself, no wonder the Hall Lord would ask this person for help. Seems like he really is an expert. Very quickly, the 3 of them arrived near the 2 balls of light. When they stopped, their expressions were filled with shock. This was because the 2 balls of light were actually formed by 2 huge demonic beasts. The 2 demonic beasts were a completely blue dragon and a completely red phoenix. From their silent state, it could be seen that even though they weren't completely dead, they were still very weak. Chapter 127. However, Shui Qingru and the great elder of the Water Spirit Hall quickly recovered from their shock. This was because they already knew about the situation inside from the records left behind by the seniors of the Water Spirit Hall. However, Xiao Lingyu was shocked. The auras of the 2 divine beasts were vast and ancient, as though they had existed since ancient times. The size of their bodies was something that Xiao Lingyu had never seen before. Fellow Taoist should be able to see that there is a staff in the middle of the blue dragon's body. It is our Water Spirit Hall's inheritance treasure and also our goal. As long as fellow Taoist can help us obtain that staff, everything else here is up to fellow Taoist. Shui Qingru pointed at the blue dragon and said to Xiao Lingyu. Xiao Lingyu focused his gaze and saw that only half of the staff was exposed at the neck of the blue dragon. The staff should not be small. If it was taken out by itself, it would definitely look like a huge pillar supporting the sky. However, because the dragon's body was huge, the staff appeared very small. The staff was also azure in color, with a spike at the top. Under the spike, there was a semicircular structure, and a blue bead the size of a small house was inside the semicircular structure. Blue radiance was constantly circulating within the semicircular structure, making it look extremely mystical. Clearly, this staff was not an ordinary item. Even if it was an immortal equipment, its quality would not be inferior to the demon-suppressing immortal bead. Furthermore, Xiao Lingyu only stared at the staff for a while and felt that the light circulating around the staff made his mind sway. This staff is probably not easy to obtain. If this dragon still has a breath left and we rashly awaken it, we probably won't be able to leave this place alive. Xiao Lingyu said to Shui Qingru as he turned his gaze to the fire phoenix. What puzzled Xiao Lingyu was that the fire phoenix also had an enchanted treasure on it. It looked like a shield, but it was missing a corner. After taking a careful look, Xiao Lingyu suddenly realized that the shield looked identical to the one used by Yin Dong and the other 2 Heaven Fire Hall experts to refine the purple heaven fire. From this, Xiao Lingyu was able to deduce that the shield Yin Dong's group of 3 had utilized ought to be a corner that had split off from the shield. A small corner of a shield was enough to suppress the purple heavenly fire and block the strange spiked bead. If the entire shield was unleashed, its power would definitely be astonishing. Don't worry, fellow Taoist. These 2 Demon Clan seniors have been dead for many years. They won't be able to wake up, and there isn't even a trace of their soul left. As long as we are able to block the aura that they are emitting and get close, we will be able to take the treasure. Shui-Qing Rose shook her head and explained. These two divine beasts were clearly not existences in the cultivation world when they were alive. Even though they've been dead for many years, the aura emitting from their bodies is still incomparably powerful. It won't be easy for us to get close. However, as long as they are dead, the danger factor will be much lower. If the two of you aren't afraid, then lead the way. I will lend you a hand. Xiaoling Yu said calmly. Shui-Qing Ro also knew that even if the other party was a Nine Tribulation expert, they would definitely not walk in front in this situation. Therefore, she did not say anything. She looked at the Great Elder, and the two of them walked forward together. Xiaoling Yu maintained a distance of 10 feet from the two of them and slowly advanced with full vigilance. The closer he got to the coiling blue dragon, the more nervous he became. Not only did he have to pay attention to the blue dragon, he also had to be on guard against the two from the water spirit hall. People often say that one should not have the heart to harm others, but one must always be on guard against others. Xiaoling Yu's relationship with the two of them was far from the point where they could completely trust each other. The closer they got to the blue dragon, the more Xiaoling Yu felt that the three of them were insignificant. Not only was it in terms of size, it was also in terms of aura. The dragon's aura was vigorous and ancient. It also had a natural nobility. Even though it was also of the water attribute, and the energy that flowed out of its body was rather gentle, it still made the two water attribute loose immortals feel a lot of pressure. This was because the surrounding water attribute energy was of a higher level than the water attribute energy they usually saw in the cultivation world. Naturally, it was also much higher than the water attribute immortal energy in their bodies. Perhaps it was because the two of them were water attribute cultivators and had water attribute immortal treasures to defend themselves. So even though they were very nervous, they did not seem to be struggling. However, Xiaoling Yu was different. Even though the ownerless water attribute energy did not attack him, it still rejected the divine radiance released by the demon-suppressing immortal orb, making his speed slower than the two water spirit hall experts. When they were still 100 zhang away from the blue dragon's body, although the surrounding water attribute energy was still very gentle, its density was very high. Furthermore, it seemed to be surging outwards, making it difficult for the two water spirit hall masters to move forward. It was clearly flowing like water, but at this moment, it gave him the feeling of being stuck in a swamp. Xiaoling Yu had it even worse. Even though the demon-suppressing immortal orb was a supreme grade immortal artifact, the divine radiance it released could no longer completely block the water attribute energy. Strands of high-level water attribute energy passed through the divine radiance barrier and gathered towards Xiaoling Yu's body. Xiaoling Yu's primal chaos true fire was unable to block it, and some of the high-level water attribute energy invaded Xiaoling Yu's body. Fortunately, Xiaoling Yu reacted quickly. He immediately used his primal chaos essence qi to envelop the water attribute energy that entered his body, and released his primal chaos essence qi to create a hazy barrier around his body. Only then did he not allow more and more water attribute energy to invade his body and wreak havoc. Although the primal chaos essence qi didn't disappoint, it was still too little. Under the attack of the high-level water attribute energy, Xiaoling Yu estimated that he wouldn't be able to hold on for too long. However, he could only hold on for now. When they were several feet away from the blue dragon, the two water spirit hall experts were unable to continue forward. Moreover, the jade tablet above their heads was constantly trembling, and the immortal armor on their bodies was constantly flashing. It seemed like they were using all their strength, and even their foreheads were dripping with sweat. Fellow Taoist, please lend us a helping hand. We already have no strength to continue forward. Shui-Qing Gru finally asked Xiaoling Yu for help. Xiaoling Yu only thought for a moment, then expanded the area covered by the primal chaos essence qi, enveloping the two of them as well. What kind of energy is this? It's actually so powerful. It should be released by some kind of treasure. If someone cultivated this kind of energy, their strength would definitely be very shocking. Grand Elder Shui Qingru felt the might of the primal chaos essence Qi, and their hearts were filled with indescribable shock. With the primal chaos essence Qi's consumption increasing, Shaolin Yu didn't have the slightest intention of dilly-dallying. He quickly brought the two Water Spirit Hall experts to the dragon's neck. This dragon should indeed be completely dead. Otherwise, it wouldn't have allowed the three of them to come so close. Moreover, its body wouldn't be so lifeless. Fellow Taoist, thank you for your help. Shui Qingru cupped her fist toward Shaolin Yu and said sincerely, "Don't say such polite words. I won't be able to hold on for long." Shaolin Yu frowned and urged, "Yes, yes, yes." Shui Qingru replied apologetically. Then, she opened her mouth and spat out a mouthful of essence blood, preparing to drip it on her body to claim ownership. Chapter 128. Great Elder, what is the meaning of this? Shui Qingru asked the Great Elder with a gloomy face. Palace Master, please don't misunderstand. This place is very strange and dangerous. I feel that Palace Master has a noble status and is the pillar of our Water Spirit Hall. It's best if you don't take the risk first. Let me explore this staff first. If there is any danger, I will take it. If there is no abnormality, I will give this staff to Palace Master after we get out. The Great Elder hurriedly bowed and explained in a seemingly loyal and respectful manner. Shaolin Yu couldn't help but laugh in a strange tone. In his opinion, this kind of excuse could only fool a 3-year-old child. Great Elder has guarded the Sun-Moon Star Curtain for so many years and has already contributed a lot. This time, I have a trouble Great Elder to explore this place first. I am really ashamed. Shui Qingru's expression changed again and again. Although she didn't believe the Great Elder's words, she could only reply with this sentence. No matter what, the Great Elder was still a member of the Water Spirit Hall. If he obtained this staff, he would at most go out and take away Shui Qingru's position as Palace Master. Moreover, the Great Elder's words were righteous. She couldn't doubt or criticize him. After all, there was an outsider with unfathomable strength here. After the Great Elder's essence blood dripped onto the blue ball, it was absorbed by the blue ball. Then, it turned into strands of blood mist and spread around the blue ball. However, the size of the sphere was too big. The blood mist formed by the Great Elder's blood only spread to a small area before it quieted down. The staff also didn't move in the slightest. Great Elder, I can't hold on for too long. If you've already made it recognize you as its master, then quickly take it. Shaolin Yu indifferently urged. He didn't really care about who would take the staff. However, he felt that the Great Elder was very scheming. It was better to be careful when dealing with him. Fellow Taoist, please calm down. It should be that the amount of essence blood is not enough. Let me pour in some more. I believe that it will recognize you as its master soon. After replying to Shaolin Yu, the first elder began to vomit blood continuously. He vomited until his face turned pale and his body was on the verge of collapsing. Only then did the blood mist completely cover the entire blue sphere, and the sphere and staff finally began to move. I've already formed a mental connection with it. The first elder laughed happily, completely forgetting that he had lost too much blood essence and his strength had been greatly reduced. Then, under the command of the Great Elder, the staff slowly rose from the body of the blue dragon. Only then did everyone see that there was a lifelike dragon carved on the staff, and the dragon's mouth was facing the blue ball. Just as the staff left the blue dragon's body, the originally deathly, still dragon suddenly opened its eyes. Shaolin Yu was frightened to the point that her soul trembled. Without thinking, she quickly retreated. The first elder and Shui Qingru were also frightened and immediately retreated with Shaolin Yu. Roar! A deafening dragon roar, accompanied by an unparalleled aura, surged out at the same time. The dragon's roar caused Shaolin Yu and the others' ears to ring incessantly. Their souls even showed signs of splitting apart at that moment. The aura viciously swept past the chaotic essence Xiao Lingyu had released. Although the chaotic essence, Xiao Lingyu had removed most of its might, the impact still caused Xiao Lingyu's bones to crackle, and he coughed up blood. Shui Qingru and the First Elder were not in a good state either. They were all loose immortals, and their bodies were made of energy. Their bodies made of energy were naturally not comparable to Xiao Lingyu's true body, that was comparable to a top-grade spiritual artifact. If it wasn't for the primal chaos essence's defense, their bodies would have been completely destroyed. But even with the primal chaos essence's defense, their bodies were still trembling and their faces were pale. Their expressions were filled with fear and lingering fear. Fortunately, that tyrannical aura only swept past and did not continue. After they were far away from the blue dragon, everyone turned around to take a look. They were shocked to find that the blue dragon's body was rapidly dissipating. It gradually turned into a blue mist and dissipated into the void. Its head was raised up high and its mouth was wide open. So it was just the final radiance of the setting sun. The First Elder's expression relaxed a little. Luckily, we had fellow Taoists help. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to keep our lives. Shui Qingru said gratefully to Xiao Lingyu, "This is what I should do." Xiao Lingyu did not have any intention of taking credit. His brows were still tightly knitted. Retrieving the staff was already so difficult, so it was likely that the shield on the Fire Phoenix's body wouldn't be so easily taken away. But if he didn't take the shield, wouldn't he have helped these two Water Spirit Hall Masters in vain? Wouldn't he have come all this way for nothing? Taking the shield was too risky, and he might lose his life. But if he didn't take it, Xiao Lingyu was not willing. Xiao Lingyu fell into a dilemma. He didn't know what to choose. After the blue dragon's body completely dissipated, the First Elder quietly approached it. He very smoothly shrunk the magic staff and put it into his body. "This old man's injuries are too heavy. I can't hold on any longer. I need to find a place to heal. I will take my leave first." After the First Elder put away the magic staff, he left these words and hurriedly left. Can he do something outside to harm us? Xiao Lingyu hastily asked after the First Elder flew away. With his current condition, it's hard for him to do anything. He can't beat Second Elder, and Second Elder is absolutely loyal to me. Shui Qingru shook her head and replied, "This First Elder is clearly a wolf with wild ambitions. After we go out, fellow Taoist Shui should be careful. It's best to take advantage of his current condition and force him to hand over the magic staff before he can refine it. If he doesn't comply, kill him." Xiao Lingyu seemed to kindly remind, "This matter is not urgent. Fellow Taoist should think of a way to take away the shield first." Shui Qingru said calmly, "Ha! Fellow Taoist Shui should have seen the situation just now. If we take away the shield, we might not have the luck to escape." Xiao Lingyu laughed bitterly and then asked curiously, "Fellow Taoist Shui, now that your target is in your hands, why don't you say that your injuries are too heavy like the First Elder and leave first?" Shui Qingru looked at Xiao Lingyu and said, "Firstly, I don't dare to do that, because I will definitely offend you. Our Water Spirit Hall doesn't have the confidence to offend a Ninth Tribulation expert. Secondly, I'm not that kind of person. I promised fellow Taoist Shui a good thing, but fellow Taoist Shui hasn't gotten it yet. How can I use this as an excuse to leave first? AI, trust can really kill people sometimes. But just based on fellow Taoist Shui's honesty and trust, after this matter, whether it succeeds or not, I will treat fellow Taoist Shui as a friend." Xiao Lingyu sighed and said with certainty, "To be able to have a friend like Xiao Daoyu, even if I don't get the magic staff and lose my position as the Hall Lord, Qingru feels that it's worth it." Shui Qingru clasped her hands towards Xiao Lingyu and said with a smile, "Sometimes, reality isn't as what everyone thinks or sees on the surface." Chapter 129. Reality? What reality? Shui Qingru furrowed her brows. After that, she followed Xiao Lingyu towards the phoenix corpse that was emitting a fiery light. Like before, when they were 1,000 feet away from the phoenix corpse, Shui Qingru couldn't go any further. She needed to borrow Xiao Lingyu's chaos essence to continue. Extremely high-level fire energy surged out from the Fire Phoenix's corpse. Moreover, the fire energy was far more aggressive than the water energy. The pressure they exerted on the chaotic essence, qi, grew greater and greater, causing Xiao Lingyu to be extremely careful. However, he was still unable to reach the shield with the missing horn. The shield was on the back of the phoenix corpse. Xiao Lingyu and Shui Qingru stopped beside the phoenix's wings. If Xiao Lingyu couldn't get close to the shield, he wouldn't be able to drip his blood on it like the Great Elder did. Thus, he wouldn't be able to take the shield away. Even if Xiao Lingyu spat out his blood essence now, it would most likely be incinerated into nothingness by the scorching fire energy before it could reach the shield. What should we do? Xiao Lingyu said gloomily. Even though they didn't meet any danger, they couldn't move forward. This feeling of being out of reach was tormenting their minds. Shui Qingrou's mind flashed, and she suddenly said to Xiao Lingyu, "Dao friend, don't be anxious." Just now, after the huge dragon was startled, it lost its last bit of essence and disappeared. I think this phoenix is the same. Xiao Lingyu was slightly taken aback, and then he asked in astonishment, "Fellow Taoist water, are you saying that we should first trigger this fire phoenix and make it vanish in a thin air like the giant dragon, and then take this shield magic treasure?" Shui Qingru nodded. "Seems like this is the only way." Xiao Lingyu pondered for a moment and said with a smile, "Haha, thank you for your reminder, fellow Water Dao. I think this is a good idea. Anyway, if we want to take the shield, we will definitely alarm the Fire Phoenix. It doesn't matter if we alarm it sooner or later. Also, we don't have to waste a lot of essence blood to make it recognize me as its master. This way, I can be in a better state to deal with sudden situations." Shui Qingru smiled. "Xiao Dao, you don't need to be so polite. You've already helped our Water Spear Hall get the inheritance treasure. I'm just reminding Dao friend, I don't dare to take the credit. However, the matter of alarming the Fire Phoenix will be left to Qingru. It could be considered as helping fellow Daoist Xiao successfully obtain the treasure." This, Xiao Lingyu hesitated. Xiao Dao, you don't want to give me a chance to perform?" Shui Qingru smiled. Although this Fire Phoenix didn't have any life force, but for this kind of existence, even if it had been dead for many years, if someone were to touch its corpse, it could cause some unpredictable changes. That blue dragon just now was an example. Therefore, Shui Qingru suggested that she should disturb the Fire Phoenix's corpse. In reality, she wanted to take on most of the danger herself. Xiao Lingyu could guess that Shui Qingru was a bit ashamed. After all, she invited Xiao Lingyu over, but Xiao Lingyu was stuck at the last moment. This made her unable to fulfill her promise to Xiao Lingyu. From this, Xiao Lingyu could guess that Shui Qingru's suggestion wasn't something that he could reject even if he wanted to. With Shui Qingru's temper, she would definitely do so. So Xiao Lingyu hesitated and said, "Then I'll have to trouble Dao friend Shui." After speaking, Xiao Lingyu stirred all the primal chaos essence qi in his body and strengthened the demon suppressing immortal orb. Seeing Shui Qingru's determined expression, Xiao Lingyu suddenly felt that this female loose immortal was really manly and worth befriending. After activating all her water-type immortal essence power to strengthen her immortal armor and taking a deep breath, Shui Qingru suddenly shouted. A blue jade talisman shot out from her mouth and fiercely hit the phoenix's wings and then exploded. Xiao Lingyu was a bit nervous and immediately brought Shui Qingru to fly far away. As expected, after the phoenix was alerted, it suddenly let out a phoenix cry. At the same time, a fiery shockwave swept out in all directions. Even though Xiao Lingyu was mentally prepared and his actions were not slow, the fiery shockwave was still blocked by the chaos essence. A small portion of the shockwave's power penetrated and affected the two of them. Although Xiao Lingyu's primal chaos true flame wasn't as good as the fire-type energy, it could still help him to digest some of the fire-type energy. Adding on the fact that his body's quality was higher, he didn't receive too much damage. On the other hand, Shui Qingru was water-type. Although water-type countered fire-type, the quality of her water-type energy wasn't as good as the fire-type energy. Adding on the fact that she was already heavily injured, her situation was much worse. Hee, Qingru can only do this. The rest is up to you, Xiao Daoyu. Shui Qingru laughed bitterly. After saying that, she violently spat out blood. Her face was pale, and her body was on the verge of collapse. Right now, her injuries were probably even more serious than that cunning Grand Elder. Before Xiao Lingyu could reply, the corpse of the alarmed phoenix started to dissipate like the blue dragon. This was also what Xiao Lingyu and Shui Qingru expected. However, what the two of them didn't expect was that just as the corpse of the phoenix was about to dissipate completely, there was a sudden change. From the last part of the phoenix's corpse, a brilliant white light suddenly flew out. The brilliant white light was very sharp. The moment it appeared, it gave people a feeling of invincibility. Moreover, it was coming towards Shui Qingru. With Shui Qingru's current state, she was unable to block this brilliant white light. Luckily, Xiao Lingyu's eyes were sharp and his hands were fast. He blocked in front of Shui Qingru and used his silver moon broken blade to slash at the light. Clang! A sharp sound of metal clashing against stone could be heard. Xiao Lingyu instinctively felt that the web between his thumb and forefinger had split open. Before he could even feel the pain, his body was pushed away by a valiant force. He crashed into Shui Qingru's body fiercely and flew back with Shui Qingru for a long distance before stabilizing himself. What surprised Xiao Lingyu was that there was a white mark on the silver moon broken blade in his hand. When Xiao Lingyu looked at the white light again, he and Shui Qingru were both stunned, because the white light had already stopped and revealed a 5-foot-long sword. That long sword's body was brilliant white. Sword chi filled the entire sword. Although no one was controlling it, there was an extremely sharp sword intent that surged out. It covered all directions and made people feel that there was only one long sword in this world. If one looked carefully, one could see that on the sword's hilt there were 2 small words. Merciless. Obviously, Merciless was the name of this long sword. The legendary Merciless Divine Sword was actually left behind in the Sun-Moon Star Curtain. No wonder the two of them couldn't come to an agreement and ended up dying together. No wonder even a corner of the Fire Spirit Continent's inheritance treasure was broken. Chapter 130. After the initial shock, Shui Qingru suddenly looked at Xiao Lingyu and the silver moon broken blade in Xiao Lingyu's hand. This broken blade can actually block the attack of the unforgivable divine sword. Then what is its quality? Is it also a divine tool? Shui Qingru was shocked again. Her reverence for Xiao Lingyu increased. At the same time, she rejoiced at her choice. A ninth tribulation expert not only had a powerful immortal tool, he even had a divine tool. Such an existence was probably invincible in the entire cultivation world. However, Shui Qingru didn't know that Xiao Lingyu wasn't a true ninth tribulation expert. The divine tool in his hand didn't really listen to him. He was just a very special cultivator. After the divine sword appeared, the corpse of the fire phoenix completely dissipated. Nothing was left behind. The shield with a broken corner floated in the air very quietly. Actually, even without Shui Qingru's exclamation, Xiao Lingyu could guess that the sword must have the quality of a divine tool. It should have been left behind from the ancient times. After the unforgivable divine sword attacked just now, it only released sword light that made people's hearts palpitate. It didn't attack again. However, Xiao Lingyu and Shui Qingru only stared at it. They didn't dare to do anything else. Fellow Taoist Shui, you know the origin of this divine sword? Xiao Lingyu forced himself to be calm and asked. It was obvious that the quality of this divine sword, Merciless, was far superior to that of the shield with the broken horn, and also superior to that of the intact staff. Xiao Lingyu naturally wouldn't give up on such a treasure easily. However, if he didn't ask clearly, no matter how daring Xiao Lingyu was, he wouldn't dare to act rashly. After all, the power of a divine tool could destroy heaven and earth in the cultivation world. If he wasn't careful, not only would he fail to take the treasure, he would also lose his life under the divine sword. At this point, Shui Qingru didn't have anything to hide. Plus, Xiaolin Yu gave her a good feeling. Therefore, she explained after pondering for a while. The existence of the unforgivable divine sword is the biggest secret of the Sun-Moon-Star Curtain. Only the Water Spirit Hall Palace Lord knows about this. Originally, only the Palace Lord knew about the existence of the Sun-Moon-Star Curtain. However, in order to protect this place, the Palace Lord would let the two elders with the highest cultivation in the Water Spirit Hall stay here. However, they wouldn't tell them about the unforgivable divine sword. No wonder the Grand Elder left happily after getting the staff. If he knew that there was a divine sword here, his plan would have been different. Xiaolin Yu nodded and laughed, smiled. The unforgivable divine sword is a divine sword. Divine sword is a divine sword from the ancient times. After a few twists and turns, it landed on the water continent. At that time, the master of the water spirit continent was the blue dragon that we saw before. It was a water-type, mutated divine beast. Its bloodline wasn't any weaker than the super divine beast five-clawed golden dragon. However, before it could completely refine the unforgivable divine sword, the master of the fire spirit continent, the fire phoenix, heard the news and came over. They fought over the unforgivable divine sword. Shui Qingru paused for a bit and then continued. Because it didn't completely refine the unforgivable divine sword, the blue dragon couldn't use the power of the divine sword to kill its enemy. After a chaotic battle, they were at a stalemate at the Sun-Moon-Star Curtain where normal cultivators don't know about. I think the reason why there's a broken corner on the shield is because it took on the unforgivable divine sword's attack. Anyways, many years have passed since that incident. No one knows the exact situation back then. I'm not interested in these ancient stories. You should know about the specialties of the unforgivable divine sword, right? For example, how to refine it without any resistance, and how to refine it so that cultivators in the cultivation realm can use some of its power. Xiaolin Yu touched his chin and asked. Shui Qingru hesitated again, and after 20 breaths of time, she replied. If it was someone else, I definitely wouldn't tell the truth. But since it's Xiao Daoyu, then I'll tell the truth. The unforgivable divine sword's quality is extraordinary, and it's made from 9 heaven Xian iron. Its attack power is extremely domineering. It doesn't have a single attribute and can be used by cultivators of any attribute. However, the person who refined the unforgiven divine sword was an expert in the sword Dao. He left his sword intent in the unforgiven divine sword. If cultivators want to refine it quickly, they must also be an expert in the sword Dao. They must be able to understand and digest the sword cultivator's sword intent. Only then can they completely refine it. Xiaolin Yu couldn't help but frown. He wasn't a sword master, and he didn't seem to have any interest in sword Dao. However, even if you can't refine it, this divine sword is still more powerful than an immortal weapon. Even if this merciless divine sword were to reveal a little of its original body's might, it could still easily destroy ordinary, immortal weapons. Its attack power is simply too strong. It's said that the 9 heaven black iron is extremely rare even in the divine world. Shui Qingru added. She could tell that Xiaolin Yu really liked the unforgivable divine sword. Maybe he felt that she didn't have the right to touch the divine sword, so he was very specific and patient. A god artifact is a god artifact. How can an immortal artifact compete with it? Xiaolin Yu nodded. It's not hard to refine the unforgivable divine sword as long as you can block the sword chi and sword intent ripples. But if you don't refine a part of it, it's best not to try to keep in your body. Shui Qingru continued. I can't keep it in my body even after it recognizes me as its owner? Xiaolin Yu asked. The merciless divine sword won't recognize a master. Only by completely refining it can one be considered as its true master. Those ordinary methods of recognizing a master are useless. Dao friend Xiao, you will know once you try it. Shui Qingru shook her head and laughed. Xiao Lingyu wasn't convinced. After all, he felt that he was extraordinary and his luck had always been good. So, he circulated his primal essence and went against the sword's energy ripples. Then he spat out a mouthful of essence blood on the divine sword. However, reality told him that Shui Qingru's words weren't wrong at all. Even for a special cultivator like him, his essence blood would be turned into a mist of blood after dripping onto the merciless sword and dissipating with the wind. The most troublesome thing is that this unforgivable divine sword is too powerful. Even if a cultivator meets it, if they can't refine a part of it, they won't even be able to keep it in their storage magic treasure. Unless it's a storage magic treasure of a higher quality. After Xiao Lingyu flew back gloomily, Shui Qingru added, because the cultivator who obtained the unforgivable divine sword couldn't hide it, it kept changing owners in the ancient times. Whoever obtained it couldn't keep it for long. It was also because of this that the blue dragon hid in its sun-moon star curtain. This is indeed a headache. If I want it, I have to carry it with me at all times. It's also hard for me to hide its energy. This will undoubtedly attract greedy cultivators and bring me trouble. Xiao Lingyu said bitterly. Senior might not be in the cultivation world for long, and with Senior's cultivation, you won't be afraid of others stealing it. But after Senior goes to the immortal world, you have to be more careful. Shui Qingru reminded kindly. Xiao Lingyu was extremely conflicted. It was a pity to give up such a divine sword. But if he kept it with him, it would bring him endless trouble. After all, he wasn't a true ninth tribulation expert. Chapter 131. Although I haven't reached the peak of the cultivation world, I'm not someone who can be bullied by just anyone. Most of the seventh tribulation experts can't do anything to me. Once I pass through the chaos tribulation and reach the chaos convergence stage, my strength will definitely increase. At that time, I don't even need to be afraid of the eighth tribulation experts. Why would I not take this unforgivable godly sword? Before I pass through the tribulation, as long as my luck isn't too bad, it won't be easy for me to meet an eighth tribulation expert. Thinking up to here, Xiao Lingyu didn't hesitate any longer. He immediately wrapped his hand in chaos essence and grasped the hilt of the godly sword. At this moment, Shui Qingru's body suddenly trembled and then relaxed. The Water Spirit Hall had guarded the sun-moon star curtain for countless years, not only for the inheritance treasure of the Water Spirit continent, but also for the unforgivable godly sword. However, as the current Water Spirit Hall master, Shui Qingru couldn't help but watch as someone else took away the unforgivable godly sword right in front of her eyes. This caused her to feel a little emotional, but there was nothing she could do about it. Fortunately, Xiao Lingyu still had the chaos essence to resist the sword intent and sword energy from the godly sword. Otherwise, even if he was determined to take away the unforgivable godly sword, even if it didn't resist, it would be very difficult for him to take it away. If only I could make a scabbard or a sword case. Carrying it like this, I can't keep releasing chaos essence. But what kind of material would be needed to make a scabbard or sword case that could barely restrain its sword energy and sword intent? Xiao Lingyu held the unforgivable, godly sword tightly. His expression was calm, but his mind was filled with thoughts. In an instant, Xiao Lingyu's mind swept through his storage magic treasures and glanced at all of his collections. Although he still didn't find any suitable materials to refine a scabbard or sword case, he took a few more glances at a few special treasures. The metallic treasure that Anya gave him, the golden skeleton, and the 2 fuse stones were all things that Xiao Lingyu couldn't see through. Moreover, they were all of extraordinary quality. However, Xiao Lingyu felt that if he really wanted to make a scabbard or sword case, he should focus on that stone. Now wasn't the time to make a scabbard or sword case. Xiao Lingyu held the unforgivable godly sword and went to the shield. Although a corner of the shield was broken, it was still a very powerful defensive treasure. Shui Qingru said before that other than the magic staff, all the other treasures in the solar moon star curtain belonged to Xiao Lingyu. With regards to such a powerful defensive treasure, Xiaoling Yu, who was about to face the chaos tribulation, would never give it up. In order to make this shield recognize him as its master, Xiaoling Yu and the Water Spirit Hall's Great Elder had to pay a lot of blood essence. Fortunately, the broken corner of the shield did not affect its recognition of its master. Under Xiaoling Yu's control, the shield shrunk rapidly, and he swallowed it into his dantian, allowing it to be refined by his chaos-nascent soul's primal chaos true fire. Daoist Shui, we can go out now. After keeping the shield, Xiaoling Yu said to Shui Qingru, who was still in a daze. Okay. Shui Qingru nodded and replied. Then, she slowly flew towards the door. After this matter, I hope that Dao friend Xiao can help me speak up in case the Heaven Fire Hall's Yin Dong and the others come to cause trouble. Daoist Shui can rest assured. Although Yin Dong and I don't have a deep relationship, I believe that he will still give me this face. Xiaoling Yu had indeed obtained quite a lot of benefits from this trip. Adding on the fact that he had already promised Shui Qingru, he naturally agreed. Then I'll have to thank Xiao Daoyu again. Shui Qingru said sincerely. This is nothing. However, since the Grand Elder took away your treasure, I'm afraid that he will not give it to you. Daoist Shui, don't you have any other thoughts? Xiaoling Yu chuckled. Qingru is not a greedy person. To be able to let my Water Spirit Continent's treasure see the light of day again and fulfill the wishes of the Water Spirit Hall's seniors and myself, Qingru is already very satisfied. As for which expert of my Water Spirit Hall has the treasure, it is no longer important. Shui Qingru replied indifferently. Daoist Shui is really a person who is very emotional. However, there are many times when the tree wants to be quiet, but the wind will not stop. Even if Daoist Shui doesn't want the treasure, the Grand Elder might not be at ease. Xiaoling Yu said as he flew. His meaning was very clear. At most, Qingru will give up my position as the Hall Lord and go roam the cultivation world. This way, I will be able to live a carefree life. Shui Qingru said straightforwardly. Haha. Xiaoling Yu could only smile. That was all he could say. If it wasn't for the fact that Shui Qingru was a good person, he wouldn't waste his breath on the Water Spirit Hall's matters. What Shui Qingru didn't expect was that before she brought Xiaoling Yu to the door formed by the star curtain actually started to collapse from top to bottom. Through the door that didn't collapse, Xiaoling Yu and Shui Qingru could clearly see that the Water Spirit Hall's Grand Elder was attacking the two star curtains. He really knows how to play tricks outside, Xiaoling Yu said coldly. A pair of silver wings suddenly appeared behind him. His body also turned into a ray of light and rushed to the door in two flaps. At this time, the door just happened to collapse completely. The space around it started to distort rapidly. Then, it instantly formed a spatial storm and trapped Xiaoling Yu. Even though Xiaoling Yu didn't put up a defense before, his silver wings had a very strong ability to absorb the power of space. This spatial storm didn't cause any harm to him. He even passed through it easily. The Grand Elder was right outside. However, at this moment, he was abnormally shocked. He seemed to find it very hard to believe that Xiaoling Yu could make it out. But after a while, he came back to his senses and ran away without looking back. Xiaoling Yu originally wanted to chase and kill him. But firstly, he was afraid of a 7 Tribulation expert's desperate counterattack. Secondly, Shui Qingru was still trapped inside. Thus, he gave up on this plan. He turned and flapped his wings and rushed into the spatial storm that hadn't dissipated yet. Xiaoling Yu knew that if this spatial storm stopped, the space would return to normal. Then, Shui Qingru would be forever trapped in the void of the Sun-Moon Star Curtain. This was because it would be very difficult to find the Blue Moon Fire Supreme Stone and Red Sun Spirit Water Supreme Stone in the cultivation realm. The moment before the spatial storm stopped, Xiaoling Yu brought Shui Qingru out by a hair's breadth. Thank you, Xiao Daoyu, for saving my life. Qingru doesn't have anything to repay you. If you need my help in the future, I will definitely. Dao friend Shui, there's no need to be so polite. We cultivators don't need such words. If it wasn't for Dao friend Shui, How could I obtain this merciless god sword and shield? I've said before that I already treat Dao friend Shui as a friend. Even if we're friends, we should help each other. Shaoling Yu didn't wait for Shui Qingru to finish speaking. Despicable Grand Elder. You should have ambushed Second Elder. Shui Qingru said furiously as she took out a shattered soul jade token. That Grand Elder didn't go to recuperate after coming out. Right now, his condition must be very bad. This is the best time to get rid of him. But he's already escaped. I'm afraid it'll be very hard to find him. Shaoling Yu said helplessly. He's a 7 tribulation loose immortal. After suffering such heavy injuries, it'll be very hard for him to recover easily. He'll definitely go to a place to find water source energy. We just have to go there to find him. As Shui Qingru spoke, she flew up. The direction she was flying towards was the direction that the Great Elder had fled towards. Chapter 132. 2 hours later, the heavily injured Shui Qingru brought Shaoling Yu to a misty ocean region. As they approached this region, they could clearly feel that the water-type spirit energy here was very dense and high-grade. It was a good place for water-type cultivators to cultivate. However, this place was definitely under the control of the Water Spirit Hall. Other cultivators weren't allowed to come here to cultivate. Entering the depths of this region, Shaoling Yu gradually felt the existence of the water spirit source energy. It was either a strand or a strand. They were like fish in the water, happily swimming in the misty ocean. The misty ocean region wasn't very big, and there were Water Spirit Hall experts guarding it. However, they naturally didn't dare to stop Shui Qingru and Shaoling Yu. Even though the range of this fog isn't very big, it can restrict any cultivator's will. If the Grand Elder is hiding here, it won't be easy for us to find him. Shui Qingru brought Shaoling Yu around the foggy sea for a while and said gloomily, "The head elder is heavily injured and lost too much essence blood. I'm afraid he won't be able to recover in a short period of time. Let's not be anxious and slowly look for him." Shaoling Yu comforted. Fellow cultivator Shao, you might not know this, but us water-type cultivators recover very quickly. Additionally, the Water Spirit Hall has some secret techniques that can help cultivators recover quickly. This is especially true in this place. The Grand Elder will only need 2 days to recover, Shui Qingru said, shaking her head. Then there's no use for us to be anxious. Let's slowly look for him. Shaoling Yu replied, I really didn't expect that he would be so vicious for the inheritance treasure. Not only did he kill the Second Elder, he wasn't even going to let me go. I really can't be at ease with such an untrustworthy person in charge of the Water Spirit Hall and Water Spirit Continent. Shui Qingru said angrily, Haha, if I didn't have some special methods, the 2 of us would have been trapped in the Sun-Moon Star Curtain, and the head elder's scheme would have succeeded. However, to be honest, I admire his scheming. He's probably more eager to open the Sun, Moon, and Star Curtain than you are, Shaoling Yu said with a smile. He wasn't willing to let go of someone like the First Elder who wanted to kill him. He was afraid that the First Elder would recover his strength. Therefore, he felt a little complicated. I'll go call some people over to help search. Shui Qingru said. That works too, Shaoling Yu replied, and then hurriedly said, Wait, did you notice that there are some changes in the water-type spirit energy here? Shui Qingru frowned slightly and asked, What change? Shaoling Yu explained, The water-type spiritual energy here seems to be converging towards one place. Although the speed of convergence is very slow and not obvious, it is an abnormal phenomenon. Shui Qingru sensed carefully and nodded. That's right. The water element spirit energy here has indeed changed. It should be caused by the Great Elder using a secret technique to recover from his injuries. We can use this to find him. Immediately, Shui Qingru looked towards one direction and sensed the changes in the water element spirit energy as she moved quickly. You're a high-level water element cultivator. How come you can't sense the changes in the water element spirit energy as well as me? Shaoling Yu didn't understand. He It's because I'm a high-level water element cultivator. When I'm in an environment with dense water element spirit energy, I don't need to do any defense. Therefore, I don't need to worry too much. But Xiao Daoyu, you're the exact opposite. Shui Qingru explained with a smile. The direction of the water element spirit energy kept changing. After 4 hours, Shui Qingru and Xiao Lingyu finally caught up to the convergence point. Then, the two of them fell into the sea. At the depth of 3,000 feet, Xiao Lingyu and Shui Qingru saw the first elder. At this moment, he was in a light screen. That light screen was rapidly moving. The water element spirit energy from all directions passed through the light screen and seeped into the first elder's body. Seeing Xiao Lingyu and Shui Qingru, the first elder was very frightened. He immediately wanted to increase his speed and escape. Xiao Lingyu's wings of extreme speed appeared behind him. In a flash, he was already in front of the first elder. As his strength and realm increased, as time passed, the wings of extreme speed absorbed more and more spatial energy. As its quality increased, its speed also increased. Now, it's time for you to pay the price for your stupidity. Xiao Lingyu sneered. 6 demon suppressing immortal pearls flew out. Before the first elder could turn around and escape, they surrounded him. Then, they cast down a divine radiance, enveloping the first elder's light screen. The first elder and Shui Qingru both mistakenly thought that Xiao Lingyu was a 9 tribulation expert. After seeing Xiao Lingyu, the first elder who had yet to recover from his injuries didn't have the slightest bit of courage to fight. He only wanted to quickly escape. If he could resist with all his strength, Xiao Lingyu might not have the chance to stop him. Of course, the first elder knew that his actions wouldn't be forgiven by the two of them. Therefore, he steeled his heart, and the light screen around him suddenly exploded. It actually pushed the 6 demon suppressing immortal pearls far away. The first elder himself flew out of the encirclement of the 6 demon suppressing immortal pearls. Even if a 7 tribulation expert was injured, he wasn't someone that Xiao Lingyu could easily subdue. While controlling the demon suppressing immortal pearls to fly away, Xiao Lingyu used the phoenix feather to sweep out a wave of fire to restrain the first elder. This prevented the first elder from escaping. Shui Qingru naturally wouldn't watch from the side. She slightly raised her aura and let out a shout. Then, countless blue water arrows flew towards the first elder from all directions. The first elder first waved his sleeve and created a blue water ball to block the wave of fire that Xiao Lingyu swept out. Then he abruptly stretched out his arms in front of him. The countless water arrows all stopped when they were 3 chi away from his body. The first elder's arms then curled, and the countless water arrows all collapsed on the spot. But after those water arrows collapsed, countless more water arrows came. What shocked the first elder was that among those water arrows, a third of them were actually formed by water origin energy. In other words, there were at least dozens of attacks equivalent to immortal tools that were currently heading towards the first elder. The first elder's face was deathly pale. He once again spread out his arms and stopped all the water arrows outside of his body. However, those water arrows formed by water origin energy were unceasingly trembling. They weren't dispersed by the first elder. The first elder and Shui Qingru were both water tribulation loose immortals. However, the first elder's injuries were much more serious than Shui Qingru's. Moreover, the reason why Shui Qingru was able to become the Palace Lord was because her strength was originally stronger than the first elder. Especially in the aspect of water origin energy, the first elder was far inferior to Shui Qingru. After all, the Water Spirit Hall had many secret techniques and powerful magical techniques that only the Palace Lord had the qualifications to cultivate. Chapter 133. The usage of origin energy was the most powerful spell of the Water Spirit Hall and even the entire continent. The difference between the Great Elder and Shui Qingru was in this point. Therefore, in order to not waste time, Shui Qingru directly used a spell that could suppress the Great Elder. Seeing more and more origin water arrows around him, the Great Elder was already in despair. However, he didn't regret his choice because he had been waiting for this for many years. He had long made up his mind to do this. However, he didn't expect that he wouldn't be able to keep Shui Qingru, that young-looking expert, in the sun-moon-star curtain forever. Shui Qingru didn't hesitate. Even though Great Elder had contributed a lot, even if he was one of the pillars of Water Spirit Hall, Shui Qingru wouldn't let him go. She lightly waved her arm, and countless origin water arrows shot towards Great Elder. Great Elder only managed to block for a few breaths of time before his defense was broken. His body was also pierced by the origin water arrows. He was already heavily injured to begin with and was an itinerant immortal. Naturally, death was the only outcome for him after suffering such a blow. When all the water arrows disappeared, Great Elder's body had already collapsed. Even his nascent soul couldn't escape. AI. Shui Qingru sighed. Her expression was very complicated. Moments later, she started coughing out blood. After all, she was also injured. Using her source technique just now had caused her a lot of damage. Actually, fellow Taoist Shui didn't have to work so hard. With my help, killing him would be easy. Xiaoling Yu said calmly. This is our Water Spirit Hall's matter. How can we trouble fellow Taoists to help? Cleaning up the sect is my duty as the Hall Lord. But our Water Spirit Hall's strength is already weak. Now that we've lost a 7th tribulation expert, luckily, the inheritance artifact didn't fall into anyone else's hands. Shui Qingru said as she flew to the place where the Great Elder died. Then, she kept the magic wand. After this, I still have other things to do. Can I trouble fellow Taoist Shui to let me know and activate the teleportation formation? Xiaoling Yu clasped his fists and said, Dao friend has helped me many times, but I have yet to host a banquet for Xiao Dao Yu. I'm truly apologetic. When Shui Qingru heard that Xiaoling Yu was about to leave, her expression changed, and she hurriedly said, we don't need those cliché things. To me, there's nothing more precious than time. Please understand, Xiaoling Yu said with a smile. All right then, I'll see you off. After Shui Qingru finished speaking, she brought Xiaoling Yu towards the interstellar transfer array. With Shui Qingru's order, the teleportation array naturally activated. However, before Xiaoling Yu could teleport away, the teleportation array began to rumble. Experts from the Heaven Fire Hall walked out one after another. The atmosphere immediately became tense. If it wasn't for Shui Qingru's order, the Water Spirit Hall's experts surrounding the teleportation array would have attacked immediately. The leader was naturally the Heaven Fire Hall's Lord Yindong and the 2 tribulation experts. However, when they walked out of the teleportation array, they saw Xiaoling Yu standing there with a smile. Thus, they were surprised and didn't attack. I didn't think that after parting for a while, Yindong would have the fate to meet Dao friend again. Yindong's originally stern face immediately turned into a smile. He clasped his fists and said very politely, We are indeed fated. Perhaps we will meet again when we reach the immortal realm. Xiaoling Yu shook his fists and replied, Immortal realm? AI. It's already not easy for Yindong to pass the 8th tribulation. As for the even more powerful 9th tribulation, I'm afraid only a genius like Dao Friend would have the chance to pass it. Dao Friend, the immortal realm is already in sight, but I'm afraid we will never have a chance. Yindong said with a sigh, How can there be no chance? Fellow Taoist, the purple heavenly fire you obtained is extremely powerful. Furthermore, there are many powerful legacy Dharma spells and Dharma treasures in the Heaven Fire Hall. Fellow Taoist, your chances of transcending the 9 tribulations are very high. Xiaoling Yu consoled. I hope so. Yindong first responded, and then pretended to be very curious, and asked in a very amiable tone, Does fellow Taoist also know woman Shui? Old man, who are you calling bitch? Shui Qingru immediately glared and scolded back. Xiaoling Yu didn't wait for Yindong to speak, and wave his hand to signal for them to stop. Then he said, "Hall Lord Yin, I wonder if you can give me some face and not pursue the matter of Dao Friend Shui, snatching the Blue Moon Supreme Firestone." This Yin Dong seemed to be in a difficult position. After a pause, he explained, "The Blue Moon Supreme Firestone is a treasure that has been passed down since ancient times. Although we don't know how to use it, according to the records, it can help us find the Heaven Fire Hall's legacy treasure. How can we sit and watch such an important thing be lost and not find it?" When Xiaoling Yu heard this, he was slightly embarrassed. This was because the Heaven Fire Hall's legacy treasure had already been taken by him. "Xiao Dao, you don't worry. The Heaven Fire Hall definitely doesn't know of the existence of the Sun Moon Star Curtain, nor do they know where their legacy treasure is. They also don't know why I stole the Blue Moon Supreme Firestone." Shui Qingru transmitted her voice to Xiaoling Yu. Only then did Xiaoling Yu calm down. Although he felt that he owed Yin Dong, he definitely wouldn't return the broken horn golden shield to the Heaven Fire Hall. He was about to face the chaos, heavenly tribulation, and this golden shield would definitely play a crucial role. "How about this? Hall Lord Yin, you can state some conditions. Dao Friend Shui and I will think of a way to make up for the Heaven Fire Hall's loss." Xiaoling Yu said after a quick thought. This, Yin Tong was once again put in a difficult position. It was very difficult for him to negotiate with a Ninth Tribulation elite. Moreover, the other party had helped him quite a bit previously. This made it very difficult for him to open his mouth. Moreover, that Blue Moon Supreme Fire Rock was indeed very important. If it was lost, as the Hall Master, Yin Tong would definitely be held accountable. To be honest, the Blue Moon Supreme Firestone has already been used by Dao Friend Shui. Even if Dao Friend Yin slaughters all the cultivators in the Water Spirit Continent, he won't be able to find the Blue Moon Supreme Firestone. If that's the case, why don't you state some conditions? Dao Friend, you can rest assured that I won't mind if you state your conditions." Xiaoling Yu transmitted his voice to Yin Dong. Yin Dong also began to ponder. Firstly, although the records of the Heaven Fire Hall were definitely true, not a single cultivator from the Heaven Fire Hall had managed to find the inheritance treasure of the Heaven Fire Hall based on that legend. Furthermore, he was about to face his 9th heavenly tribulation. If he survived it, he would go to the immortal world. If he failed, only death awaited him. No matter what, his relationship with the Heaven Fire Hall was running out. Second, this 9th tribulation expert was clearly on the same side as Shui Qingru. Even if Yin Dong wanted to make a move, he wouldn't be able to gain any benefits. He might even anger this 9th tribulation expert who had a good relationship with them. Third, if he really used this opportunity to demand an exorbitant price, Shui Qingru wouldn't dare to let this 9th tribulation expert bear the slightest bit of responsibility. After thinking for a while, Yin Dong said, "All right, since Dao Friend has stepped forward to protect them, how can Yin Dong not give Dao Friend face? I have 3 conditions. 1 is 100,000 immortal stones. 2 is an immortal tool. 3 is 500 soul essence blue marrow." Xiaoling Yu frowned when he heard this request. Shui Qingru snorted coldly and said, "That's right." Chapter 134. I could give you less soul essence blue marrow, but at least 400 sets. 80,000 immortal stones are fine too. Immortal tools don't have to be too high quality. Low grade is fine. Yin Tong saw that Xiaoling Yu's expression was a bit off, so he lowered the price slightly. "This isn't too much. I don't think Dao Friend Shui will have any objections. I don't have extra immortal stones or immortal tools here, but I can provide you with 2 sets of immortal grade items as a token of my appreciation." Xiaoling Yu said as he took out 2 jade boxes and gave them to Shui Qingru. Shui Qingru originally wanted a bargain, but after hearing Xiaoling Yu's words, she didn't continue. But she didn't take the jade boxes from Xiaoling Yu. She said, "I was the one who stole the Blue Moon Fire Supreme Rock. It has nothing to do with Xiao Daoyu. Dao Friend has already helped us a lot, so how can I let Dao Friend pay for it? You should take back these 2 sets of immortal grade items." Without waiting for Xiaoling Yu to speak, Shui Qingru said to Yin Tong, "Yin Tong, You have to promise that you won't attack Water Spirit Continent for the next 2,000 years. Only then can I be at ease and fulfill the 3 conditions you mentioned. Yin Tong was already an 8th tribulation expert. He could at most stay in the cultivation realm for 2,000 years. If he couldn't pass the 9th tribulation, then he wouldn't even be able to live for 2,000 years. Shui Qingrou's meaning was very clear. She believed that Yin Tong would deal with Water Spirit Continent after Shaolin Yu ascended. However, she didn't know that Shaolin Yu wasn't a 9 tribulation scattered immortal who was about to ascend. However, Shaolin Yu wouldn't be able to stay in the cultivation realm for long. After passing the chaos divine tribulation, he wouldn't be able to stay in the cultivation realm for 1,000 years before ascending. And this was the normal speed. If he failed the tribulation, then only death awaited him. I can promise you that. Of course, I can only guarantee it to myself. After all, if something were to happen to me during this period of time, I will not be able to interfere with the other Heaven Fire Hall members. Yin Dong could guess Shui Qingrou's intentions, so he responded in such a manner. It's fine as long as you can protect yourself. Other than you, no other cultivator from the Heaven Fire Hall can threaten the Water Spirit Hall. Shui Qingrou said with a confident look. Hee, both of you are trustworthy people. Since you've already reached an agreement, there won't be any more misunderstandings. I still have other matters to attend to, so I won't delay any longer. Take these 2 immortal items as a token of my appreciation to you 2 fellow Taoists. In any case, you 2 fellow Taoists have to give me face and accept them. At this moment, Shaolin Yu's heart was much more relaxed. She forcefully stuffed the 2 jade boxes into Yin Dong and Shui Qingrou's hands. These 2 materials came from the immortal space in the hidden Immortal Sea region. Although the quality was very good, Shaolin Yu had no use for them. At this moment, it was a better choice to use them as a favor. At the very least, this would make everyone feel that he was generous with his money. Thus, they would firmly believe that he was a 9th tribulation expert. How can I accept that? Yin Dong said with a hollow laugh. However, he knew that he couldn't refuse, so he braced himself and accepted it. Xiao Daoyu really makes Qingrou blush with shame. I should be the one thanking you, but I have to accept your immortal items. However, Qingrou can guarantee that if fellow Taoist needs me or the Water Spirit Hall in the future, just say the word. We will definitely do our best to help. Shui Qingrou also knew that she couldn't refuse anymore. After accepting the jade boxes, she said with a firm tone, Same for me. Yin Dong hurriedly added. Although they believed that Shaolin Yu was a 9th tribulation expert and was about to ascend to the immortal realm, a 9th tribulation expert could also have a junior disciple. Perhaps he really would need their help to take care of him. Then I'll take my leave first. If fate wills it, we'll meet again. Shaolin Yu nodded with a smile. After that, he didn't say anything else. After bidding farewell, he directly walked into the teleportation array. Under the gazes of many experts from the Water Spirit Hall and Heaven Fire Hall, Shaolin Yu activated the transportation array. After a rumble and a flash of white light, he left the Water Spirit Continent. This fellow Taoist temper is really good. He doesn't have the arrogance of a 9th tribulation expert at all. He's generous and straightforward. He comes and goes as he pleases. He's really a role model for our generation. Yin Dong's gaze shifted from the transportation array. It's a pity that he's about to ascend to the immortal realm. Otherwise, we would be able to interact more in the future. Even if he's not a 9th tribulation expert, he's still worth befriending. Shui Qingrou nodded in agreement. If it wasn't for him, I definitely wouldn't have let you off this time. Yin Dong's expression suddenly changed, and he said with a bit of anger, That's enough. Using a useless Blue Moon Extreme Firestone to exchange for so many things. You guys really made a huge profit. If it wasn't for Xiao Daoyu's interruption, I definitely wouldn't have tolerated your exorbitant demand. Shui Qingrou looked like she had made a loss. There wasn't any joy on her face. To Shui Qingrou and the Water Spirit Hall, they didn't lose anything this time. Their inheritance treasure was a top-grade immortal artifact. With that magic staff, the Water Spirit Hall, and Shui Qingrou's strength would increase greatly. But Shui Qingru knew that the one who gained the most from opening the sun-moon star curtain wasn't her. It was Xiao Daoyu who just left. Although I don't know how you dealt with the Blue Moon Extreme Firestone, I can see that you guys definitely gained a lot from agreeing to my 3 conditions. But just as you said, the Blue Moon Supreme Firestone is useless in our hands. As for the search for the Inheritance Supreme Treasure, it's too vague. It's not necessarily a bad thing to be able to get some compensation from you. To be honest, I don't really care about the Immortal Artifact and Immortal Stones. What I want the most is the 400 Soul Essence Blue Marrow. That's a top-grade material for forging a loose Immortal's body. Furthermore, a loose Immortal's body forged with the Soul Essence Blue Marrow has the best self-recovery ability. In the past, I couldn't buy it from you guys even if I paid a high price. This time, I got a few hundred for free. It's really great that I got it. When Yin Dong said this, he looked at the Heaven Fire Hall experts with a smile. Looking at his proud appearance, it was as if he had just made a very profitable deal. In fact, he was just giving everyone an explanation. The Heaven Fire Hall experts also laughed. They didn't really care about losing the Blue Moon Extreme Firestone. They were more interested in the Immortal Stones and Immortal Artifact. You guys go back first. I'll send someone to deliver the items to you in a few days. Yin Dong, you should believe that I won't go back on my words, right? Shui Qingru said. Of course. There are many people on both sides of today's agreement. Of course, you won't go back on your words. Since that's the case, we'll go back first. After Yin Dong responded, he had a face full of smiles and pride as he brought his subordinates and teleported away. After Xiao Lingyu left the Water Spirit Continent, he first found a place to rest for a period of time. Then, he went to the Thunder Continent. Actually, after leaving the Fire Spirit Continent, Xiao Lingyu's target was the Thunder Continent. However, an accident happened in the Water Spirit Continent. Otherwise, he would have arrived at the Thunder Continent long ago. Chapter 135. When he arrived at Thunder City, Xiao Lingyu originally intended to purchase a map jade slip. However, when he heard that a grand auction was being held at the auction house in the center of the city, he hurried over. In the center of Thunder City, other than a lofty city lord's mansion, there was also a very eye-catching building. It was an auction house called Myriad Thunder. This auction house belonged to the Thunder Firmament Palace, which was in charge of the Thunder Continent. Otherwise, it would be impossible to have such a magnificent building in such a bustling area of Thunder City. The Myriad Thunder auction house was several hundred feet tall. The entire building was enveloped by a high-level formation. All year round, various colored lightning would fall from the sky. Although the lightning constantly bombarded the auction house's building, it did not cause the auction house to tremble in the slightest. Instead, it made the auction house appear to be overflowing with colorful lights, which was exceptionally eye-catching. Although it was several hundred feet tall, the entire building did not appear to be very tall. As a whole, it looked more like a huge tortoise. This was because it had an irregular oval shape and a tortoise shell at the top. When the lightning fell from the sky, the tortoise shell burst with various colored electric sparks. It looked really magnificent. However, the cultivation world was a place where cultivators gathered. The buildings in any cultivation world were not something that ordinary people could imagine. However, the architectural style of the Myriad Thunder Auction House was really rare. Moreover, even if a cultivator with a high cultivation base and extraordinary knowledge saw it, they would still feel shocked. No wonder it's called the Myriad Thunder Auction House. Looking at the various colored lightning falling from the sky, Xiao Lingyu smiled faintly and muttered to himself as he walked toward the door. The first floor of the Myriad Thunder Auction House was an extremely spacious trading area. There were countless counters inside. Many cultivators who wanted to sell their treasures chose to wait at their respective counters. As for those who came to buy treasures, they lingered in front of those counters. The entire first floor appeared to be very lively, but it was not noisy. Xiao Lingyu did not have time to search for treasures in the market on the first floor. He directly walked toward the stairs leading to the second floor. At the entrance of the stairs, there were two cultivators guarding. Any cultivator who wanted to go up to the second floor had to pay them 1,000 high-grade spirit stones or 10 top-grade spirit stones. Xiao Yu paid 10 top-grade spirit stones and walked up more than 200 steps before reaching the second floor. There was indeed an auction on the second floor, but the quality of the treasures being auctioned here was relatively low, so he didn't linger. Instead, he walked towards the stairs leading to the third floor. Going up to the third floor wasn't as simple as paying spirit stones. One also needed to be at least at the body integration stage. Unfortunately, the strength measuring stone was still used to test the cultivator's cultivation. As expected, after Xiao Yu injected some primal chaos energy into the strength testing stone, the number on the strength testing stone soared to 9, causing the expressions of the 2-3 tribulation bodiless celestials to change drastically. They hurriedly bowed and addressed themselves as juniors. Xiao Yu was used to this kind of scene, so he didn't blush at all. He nodded indifferently and walked up the stairs with his hands behind his back, leaving the 2-3 tribulation loose immortals looking at each other in dismay. They didn't come to their senses for a long time. The venue on the third floor was a relatively high-class auction venue. The cultivators who could enter here to participate in the auction had to be at least at the early body integration stage. As for the highest level of cultivation, it was unknown. The auction had been going on for some time. When Xiao Yu arrived, the auction was in the middle of the auction. He still had to wait until the final item was auctioned. The material that Xiao Yu wanted was a special product of the Thunder Continent. Its quality was also very high. Therefore, even if it appeared in this auction, it would only appear in the final stage. Therefore, after arriving, he casually found a seat and sat down. Then, he closed his eyes and began to rest. Xiao Yu could guess that his arrival would attract the attention of the powerhouses on the Thunder Continent, especially since he was carrying the merciless divine sword on his back. When he was preparing to leave the Water Spirit Continent, Xiao Yu casually found a good quality jade box and hid the merciless divine sword in it. However, if he didn't wrap it with chaotic essence chi, the merciless divine sword's sword intent and sword chi would overflow. Any powerhouse with a cultivation above the 3 tribulation stage could easily detect it. At this moment, Xiao Yu was carrying the merciless divine sword on his back. He would release chaotic essence chi from time to time to conceal it, so he didn't attract anyone's attention. After all, there were very few cultivators sitting behind him, and none of them were powerhouses. After waiting for nearly a day, the auction entered the last stage. High-quality materials and finished treasures began to appear one after another, and the atmosphere in the venue was just beginning to warm up. Fellow Taoists, the next item to be auctioned is a special material. This material is very important for cultivators who are about to face their heavenly tribulations. It can increase the success rate of tribulation transcendence. I believe many fellow Taoists have already guessed that the next material is Thunder Source Stone. However, we definitely won't take out an ordinary Thunder Source Stone at this time. This Thunder Source Stone is very different. The auctioneer was a female 5 tribulation stage loose immortal. Not only was her voice sweet and outstanding, but she was also very good at stirring up everyone's appetite. Hearing this, a smile appeared on Xiao Yu's face. Sure enough, as he expected, a Thunder Source Stone really appeared in this auction, and it seemed to be a top-quality one. The Thunder Continent was a relatively prosperous source continent. The reason why it was prosperous was because of the Thunder Source Stone. 4 tribulation stage cultivators, as well as those loose immortals, loose devils, and loose demons who were about to face their next heavenly tribulation, the Thunder Source Stone was one of the materials they had to prepare before their tribulation transcendence. The higher the quality of the Thunder Source Stone, the better the effect of resisting the lightning attack of the heavenly tribulation. A high-quality Thunder Source Stone could even allow a cultivator who had no hope of transcending the tribulation to withstand the baptism of the heavenly tribulation. Seeing the excited expressions of many cultivators below, the beautiful auctioneer smiled. She waved her sleeve, and a ray of light flew out from her sleeve. Then, The ray of light floated in front of her and gradually converged, revealing a jade box. On the jade box, there was a paper talisman with mysterious runes carved on it. However, the mysterious paper talisman was gently blown away by the beautiful female host, causing it to float away. The jade box then slowly opened. Suddenly, a seven-colored ray of light shone from the jade box. It's actually a seven-colored thunder source stone. Could it be a seven-colored thunder source stone? All the cultivators present stood up, looking very surprised. Even Xiaoling Yu felt a little surprised. Chapter 136. You want immortal stones to bid. Xiaoling Yu frowned because he didn't have any immortal stones on him. Fortunately, there was still an opportunity to barter, so Xiaoling Yu wouldn't give up just because he didn't have any immortal stones. 2,000 immortal stones. 2,500 immortal stones. 4,000 immortal stones. As soon as the auctioneer finished speaking, the venue immediately boiled up, and the price of the seven-colored thunder source stone continued to soar, approaching the price of 10,000 immortal stones. Just 100,000 immortal stones were enough to bankrupt an existence like the Water Spirit Hall. 10,000 immortal stones were definitely not cheap. Ordinary cultivators might have supreme grade spirit stones that they couldn't use up, but even the top clans who controlled immortal stone veins didn't dare to say that they had enough immortal stones. Xiaoling Yu vaguely remembered that Princess Mononoke wanted to rope in a sixth tribulation master with a few hundred immortal stones. This showed how rare immortal stones were in the cultivation world. Immortal stones were only useful to loose immortals and great ascension stage cultivators, but there were many of them in the cultivation world, and immortal stones were consumables, so immortal stones have been getting rarer and rarer in the cultivation world. After all, there weren't many immortal stones or divine stones left for the cultivation world in the ancient times when the world was divided. Xiaoling Yu looked a little nervous. If the price of the seven-colored thunder source stone exceeded 10,000 immortal stones, then he had no fate with it. He didn't have that many immortal stones to participate in the auction. What made Xiaoling Yu helpless was that although 10,000 immortal stones was a very high price, the price of the seven-colored thunder source stone had exceeded 10,000 immortal stones in just 100 breaths of time, and it was still rising. This made Xiaoling Yu feel very regretful that he didn't store some immortal stones on him. Among the treasures that Jiang Lanyu mentioned, there really was a place with a large amount of immortal stones, but it was too dangerous, and Xiaoling Yu only needed a large amount of immortal stones when he reached the chaotic convergence period, so he didn't take the risk. 13,000 immortal stones. This old man is Sun Tianqi, and there are only 50 years left before the 8th tribulation. Please give me some face. Fellow Taoist son, I'm also about to face the 8th tribulation. Can you give me some face? I bid 14,000 immortal stones. I haven't even said anything yet, so why are you in such a hurry? I'm about to face my 9th tribulation. I am the second elder of the Tai immortal sect. I bid 30,000 immortal stones. Upon hearing this, Xiaoling Yu's expression suddenly changed, and she looked in the direction of the voice. It was indeed the second elder of the Tai immortal sect. Moreover, he had Dyer by his side. After the second elder of the Tai immortal sect spoke, the entire place fell silent. The deterrence of an 8th tribulation expert was undoubtedly revealed. Although this was the Thunder Continent and the property of Thunder Firmament Palace, Extreme Celestial Sect was simply too powerful. Ordinary cultivators would not casually offend them. Second Elder, the seven-colored Thunder Origin Stone is not very useful for the 9th tribulation. Don't fight with us for it. I think that with the Tai immortal sect's resources and methods, they will definitely be able to ensure that Second Elder successfully passes the 9th tribulation. I bid 35,000 immortal stones. There was really someone who was unwilling to give up so easily. A 7th tribulation expert very politely increased the price. Even if it is not very useful, it is still somewhat useful. Everyone knows what the ninth tribulation means to loose immortals. Naturally, I can make more preparations and have a higher chance of success. Therefore, this seven-colored thunder origin stone, this old man must obtain it. I bid 40,000 immortal stones. The second elder of the immortal sect did not put on airs. After explaining, he also increased the price. The ninth tribulation was indeed very important to loose immortals. After passing it, they would be able to get rid of the threat of the heavenly tribulation. Moreover, they would be able to recreate a physical body like other cultivators and not an energy body. The most important thing was that after a ninth tribulation expert ascended to the immortal world, he could be considered an expert. His strength would far surpass that of a great ascension stage cultivator. 40,000 immortal stones. This price was simply too high. Ordinary loose immortals would not be able to take out so much. Only a high-level loose immortal, like the second elder of the immortal sect, who came from a wealthy family, would be able to do so. The entire auction hall suddenly fell silent. Many cultivators shook their heads, looking disappointed and powerless to continue bidding. Fellow Taoists, if no one increases the price, this seven-colored thunder origin stone will belong to the second elder. The beautiful host waited for 10 breaths of time and then used her sweet voice to remind everyone. After another 10 breaths of time, the beautiful host smiled and said, "In that case, this seven-colored thunder origin stone will belong to wait." Before the beautiful host finished speaking, someone stopped her. The person who spoke was sitting at the back of the venue. He was Shaoling Yu. The seven-colored thunder origin stone was very important to Shaoling Yu. If he could have its help, Shaoling Yu's chances of passing the tribulation would increase. He was also determined to obtain it. However, if the seven-colored thunder origin stone fell into the hands of the second elder of the immortal sect, Shaoling Yu would not have a chance. Therefore, he took the risk to appear. The second elder of the immortal sect knew Shaoling Yu, and also knew that Shaoling Yu was not a ninth tribulation expert. However, in this venue, he should not dare to touch Shaoling Yu. Fellow Taoist, are you going to increase the price? The beautiful host asked with a smile. She naturally hoped that the price of the seven-colored thunder origin stone would be as high as possible because she could get more commission. I want to talk to the owner of this seven-colored thunder origin stone and see if he needs any materials. Can we barter with him? Shaoling Yu said calmly. Little brother, the host has already said that if the price of this seven-colored thunder origin stone exceeds 10,000 immortal stones, then there is no need to barter. The second elder of the immortal sect looked over and said coldly. When he saw Shaoling Yu, he immediately frowned. However, he soon relaxed and revealed a playful smile. Thank you for the reminder, second elder. However, I still have a few good things here. Perhaps the owner of this seven-colored thunder origin stone will take a fancy to them. Shaoling Yu replied calmly. Fellow Taoist request is indeed a bit against the rules of our auction house, so wait. The beautiful host was about to refuse, but she was unexpectedly stopped again. Let me talk to this little brother first. A cultivator stood out from the crowd and then walked towards Shaoling Yu with a smile. Obviously, this person was the owner of the seven-colored thunder origin stone. He was tall and had a thin face. His calm expression had a hint of a smile, giving people a quiet and wise feeling. Chapter 137. This seven-colored thunder source stone is mine. I can sell it however I want. Are you trying to coerce me by standing in front of me? The cultivator, who looked like a young man in his 30s from the secular world, still looked calm, but his tone was a little unhappy. I won't stop you. I'll ask the Myriad Thunder Auction House for an explanation. Although the second elder of the immortal sect said that he wouldn't stop the cultivator, his body didn't move at all. He still stood in front of the cultivator. Second elder, I'm really sorry. This fellow cultivator said before that it's up to him to decide what to do with the seven-colored thunder source stone. The owner of the Myriad Thunder Auction House also agrees with this. The beautiful host said apologetically, I still don't agree. If we do as you say, Aren't you making a fool of us? We bid, but you won't necessarily sell it. What is this? The second elder said angrily. Fool? Haha, so what if we fool you? The cultivator said with a smile. This sentence immediately caused an uproar in the venue because this sentence was too arrogant. It actually meant that he disregarded all the experts present. The other cultivators were fine, but the second elder of the Thai, immortal sex expression, was extremely ugly. This was the first time he was looked down upon like this, and it was also the first time someone dared to be so arrogant in front of him. Even the great elder of the Thai, immortal sect, who was a nine-tribulation scattered celestial of the Thai, immortal sect, probably wouldn't say this in front of so many experts. I'll give you some color. Don't open a dye house with me. The second elder of the Thai, immortal sect, was extremely angry. Immediately, a powerful aura surged out from his body, and the whole venue immediately became tense. The strange thing was that not only did the cultivators sitting in the venue not say anything to stop him, but even the owner of the Myriad Thunder Auction House didn't come forward. Haha, with your little ability, I don't need you to give me face. Get lost. The cultivator's expression was still calm, but his eyes narrowed. Then he waved his arm, and an even more powerful aura surged out, directly pushing the second elder of the Thai, immortal sect, far away. Everyone in the hall sucked in a breath of cold air. What kind of cultivation was it to be able to push an 8-tribulation expert away with a wave of his sleeve? 9-tribulation expert. The expression of the second elder of the Thai, immortal sect, also changed greatly. The aura that pushed him away just now actually gave him a feeling that he couldn't dodge or block it no matter how hard he tried. He had once felt this feeling in front of the great elder. Therefore, after the second elder's expression changed again and again, he could only angrily return to his seat with a gloomy expression. All the cultivators in the venue also understood that they did have the qualifications to be arrogant. A 9th tribulation expert was an invincible existence in the cultivation world, and 9th tribulation experts would not easily fight with each other. After all, they were all about to ascend to the immortal world, and no one wanted any accidents to happen before their ascension. It was no wonder that the Myriad Thunder Auction House would give this cultivator so much freedom and break the rules of the auction house because of him. In the cultivation world, the 9 tribulation experts were the rules. Come, little brother, I don't know what good things you have. Take them out and let me have a look. If there's really something that I like, then the 7-colored Thunder Source Stone is yours. The cultivator walked up to Shaoling Yu, waved his sleeve, and made a hazy fog to wrap around the surroundings. Then he said with a smile, the hazy fog could isolate all the cultivators' thoughts, so other cultivators couldn't see or hear the situation inside. Then please wait a moment. Shaoling Yu recovered from the surprise, and then he began to calculate what he had to take out to make this 9 tribulation expert, who was about to ascend to the immortal world, like. Although he had a lot of good things, most of them were for his own use. However, over the years, he had also obtained a lot of things that were good for other cultivators. After thinking for a while, Shaoling Yu took out immortal-grade medicinal herbs from the independent space of ancient immortals and placed them in front of the cultivator one by one. Then he said, these are all immortal-grade medicinal herbs, and some of them are more than 1,000,000 years old. I believe, fellow Taoist, will be able to find something to your satisfaction. Sure enough, the cultivator's eyes became rich, and he began to look carefully. He kept nodding with satisfaction. Little brother, you're really an extraordinary person. These medicinal herbs are almost extinct in the cultivation world. Little brother, you're actually able to take out so many of them at once. If I were that greedy and vicious person, I would definitely have evil thoughts. However, since you dare to take out so many good treasures in front of me, I guess you don't fear me. The cultivator said with a smile, as long as fellow Taoist is a cultivator in the cultivation world, I don't have to fear anything. If fellow Taoist wants to rob, you can take a few things if you act quickly. However, since fellow Taoist is able to withstand 9 heavenly tribulations, your mental state is naturally very high. Why would you ruin your reputation for these worldly possessions? Xiaoling Yu also pretended to be very confident. He believed that even a 9 tribulation expert couldn't see through his true level. After all, he was currently wrapped in chaotic energy. The cultivator stared at Xiaoling Yu and said, "These things are very good, and many of them are worth far more than the Rainbow Thunder Origin Stone. However, I am more interested in the jade box on little brother's back. The treasures hidden inside must be better, right? They are good, but they are not suitable for fellow Taoists. Fellow Taoists should choose from these." Xiaoling Yu calmly replied, "That's it. With these medicinal herbs, I can go to the immortal world and sell them for a lot of immortal stones. It will also save me a lot of trouble." The cultivator closed one of the jade boxes and put it in his storage ring. After Xiaoling Yu put away all the remaining herbs, the cultivator waved his sleeve to disperse the surrounding mist. Then he laughed and said, "Haha, I didn't think that this little brother would be able to take out a treasure that would satisfy this old man. That 7-colored thunder source stone will belong to this little brother." The cultivator personally walked to the auction stage and brought the Rainbow Thunder Origin Stone to Xiaoling Yu and said, "I'm called Yin Tianzi. If fate wills it, we might meet again in the future. You have to use this Rainbow Thunder Origin Stone as soon as possible and leave Thunder Continent as soon as possible to avoid attracting trouble." Xiaoling Yu calmly put away the Rainbow Thunder Origin Stone and replied, "Thank you, fellow Taoists, for the reminder. The 7-colored Thunder Origin Stone has been sold." Next, there are a few more treasures for the finale of this auction. They will definitely make your trip worthwhile. The beautiful MC continued the auction. Xiaoling Yu wasn't interested in the other treasures, so he took the Rainbow Thunder Origin Stone and left the venue. Chapter 138. Xiaoling Yu was very clear that obtaining this 7-colored Thunder Origin Stone would definitely attract the covetous eyes of those with evil intentions. However, in Thunder City, there is absolutely no one who would dare to act rashly. Especially when the Myriad Thunder Auction House was holding such a grand auction. All the experts of the Thunder Firmament Hall were stationed in Thunder City in order to prevent people from acting against those who won the auction. Even the second elder of the Tai, Immortal Sect, would have to think twice before acting. After all, he had just suffered a loss in front of a 9 tribulation expert. Thunder Firmament City was safe, and the teleportation array outside the city was also safe because the teleportation array belonged to the Thunder Firmament Hall. Moreover, Xiaoling Yu's movements were very fast. After arriving at the teleportation array, he did not queue up and directly cut the line to the front. Then, he poured his primal chaos power into the strength measuring stone, causing an uproar. The second elder of the Tai, Immortal Sect, had been following Xiaoling Yu. However, under the cover of his immortal sense, he had already discovered that the top experts of the Thunder Firmament Hall were watching him. They seemed to be warning him not to act on the Thunder Continent. Therefore, he could only watch as Xiaoling Yu left. As for the 9 displayed on the strength measuring stone, it did not surprise the second elder. He was just very curious about what method that kid used to make the strength measuring stone show such a situation. Naturally, the second elder did not need to queue up. After Xiaoling Yu was teleported, he immediately entered the teleportation array with Dai Er. However, the other cultivators who wanted to scheme against Xiaoling Yu were all incomparably shocked. They all very obediently slipped back to Thunder City and secretly rejoiced that they did not act. Otherwise, a casual breath from the other party might kill them. The second elder did not immediately activate the teleportation array to leave. Instead, he took out a piece of white gauze paper as thin as a cicada's wing and covered it on the astrolabe of the teleportation array. Then, he began to chant and form hand seals. After a moment, a small black appeared on the white gauze paper. The great elder gently knocked on the small black before activating the teleportation array. This was a tracking method unique to the Tai Immortal Sect. However, it also had a flaw. If the other party did not stop, they would not be able to keep an eye on the other party. Moreover, They would have to enter the teleportation array immediately after the other party was teleported. Xiao Yu had made all the necessary preparations, but after every teleportation, he would leave the teleportation array and find a secluded place. He would activate the spirit tracking realm to find traces of his parents before teleporting away. After the teleportation ended, Xiao Yu arrived at an unfamiliar cultivation continent. He walked out of the teleportation array and flew into the sky. After about the time it took to drink a cup of tea, he stopped and activated the tracking spirit mirror. Less than 20 breaths of time after Xiao Yu left the transfer array, the second elder of the Tai, immortal sect, arrived with Dyer. They did not leave the transfer array immediately, but left Dyer in the transfer array. The second elder stepped out of the transfer array and released his immortal sense with all his might. The immortal sense of an eighth tribulation loose immortal was extremely wide. Naturally, it was easy to find Xiao Yu. Then, the second elder and Dyer chased after him at full speed. At this time, Xiao Yu had already put away the tracking spirit mirror. His spiritual sense had also detected the second elder and Dyer. After a moment of bewilderment, he flapped his wings of extreme speed and fled into the starry sky. Sigh. Not long after I dealt with the Black Blood Demon's pursuit, I was targeted by the experts of the Tai immortal sect. My path of cultivation is really not peaceful. Xiao Yu thought gloomily as he fled at full speed. Although his wings of extreme speed was fast, even faster than the speed of an eighth tribulation expert, the range of an eighth tribulation expert's immortal sense was too wide. An eighth tribulation expert could appear in front of him with a single teleportation. Xiao Yu was simply unable to escape. Fortunately, Xiao Yu could also teleport. Moreover, during those years when he was chased by the sixth elder and his daughter of the Black Blood Demon, he had become very familiar with the use of the wings of extreme speed and teleportation. Therefore, even if he was unable to escape, the two people from the Tai immortal sect would have a hard time keeping him here. Xiao Yu had experienced the dangers of the starry sky. However, these two people were much stronger than the two from the Black Blood Demon. Not to mention other things, just an eighth tribulation expert was enough to deal with most of the dangers in the starry sky. Even if he encountered the stellar whirlwind from last time, he was afraid that he would not be able to trap the second elder of the Tai immortal sect. Being chased so eagerly, Xiao Yu did not have time to think about other things. He just focused on using teleportation and the wings of extreme speed to escape. This escape took more than 20 years. If the wings of extreme speed were not now able to easily absorb the power of space in the cultivation world, Xiao Yu was afraid that he would not have been able to hold on. I don't know when I'll be able to escape like this. I don't have any deep hatred with these two people. Do they really have to fight to the death just for a piece of seven-colored thunder source stone? Xiao Yu was very depressed, but he did not have time to ask them. He could only keep his head down and continue to escape. It's not a good idea to continue to escape like this. Although they can't do anything to me, I don't have so much time to waste with them. I have to find a way to leave quickly. But I'm not familiar with this vast starry sky at all. How can I get rid of them? Xiao Yu had been thinking about these problems, but there was still no way. However, not long after these 20 years, the serpent brought good news to Xiao Yu. Not only did it handle the materials that Xiao Yu had sent to the spiritual beast pouch, it had also completely refined and merged the dark red demonic fire and the quiet flame heavenly fire together. This good news made Xiao Yu very excited. The strength of the serpent now should not be much weaker than that of an eighth tribulation expert. However, the serpent also brought bad news, which was that the serpent was about to undergo the heavenly tribulation. Not long after the serpent spoke, the icy soul heavenly silkworm, who had been sleeping for a long time and had been refining the ice marrow with all its might, finally completely absorbed and refined the ice marrow. It could come out of seclusion to help Xiao Yu at any time. With these two strong reinforcements, Xiao Yu felt that there was no need for him to continue escaping. Even if he could not defeat the two people from the Tai immortal sect, he would definitely not be killed on the spot. After giving the two strong pets 3 days to adapt, Xiaoling Yu flew toward the planet. That planet was the battlefield where Xiaoling Yu was going to face the two people from the Tai immortal sect. After arriving at the surface of the planet, Xiaoling Yu stared coldly at the two people from the Tai immortal sect who had arrived after him. There was not much fear on his face, and he did not seem to be in a sorry state at all. "Kid, why aren't you running anymore? You can't hold on any longer, right?" The second elder of the Tai immortal sect asked hatefully. After chasing him for so many years, he was already tired of it. Xiaoling Yu smiled and said, "Indeed, I can't hold on any longer. However, I really want to know, is it meaningful for you to chase me for so long just for a piece of 7-colored Thunder Origin Stone?" "It's not just for the 7-colored Thunder Origin Stone. Last time, you pretended to be a 9th Tribulation expert at the Kunlun Rare Treasure Shop and swindled the 3 Lives Flower away. Then you kidnapped Dyer. Moreover, the disappearance of a unification stage disciple from our Tai immortal sect in the Feiyu continent is also related to you. Do you think we can let you go?" The second elder said while shaking his head. "In that case, you definitely don't want to be kind to me. You must chase me until I die, right?" Xiaoling Yu's face darkened. "That's right. Die, thief." Chapter 139. The ribbons were the immortal equipment that Dai always carried with her. Although the quality was not high, it was a genuine immortal equipment and not a pseudo-immortal equipment refined by loose immortals. Xiaoling Yu only lightly waved the phoenix feather in his hand, and a wave of scorching heat repelled all of the ribbons. "Dyer, come back. You're not his match." The second elder seemed to be afraid that Xiaoling Yu would kidnap Dai again. He stood in front of Dai and spat out a ray of light. The multicolored light expanded in the wind and turned into an umbrella-shaped magic treasure in an instant. This umbrella-shaped magic treasure was also an immortal equipment, and its quality should be much higher than Dai-Er's ribbons. Even if an 8th Tribulation loose immortal did not have an immortal equipment, he could still be considered an expert in the cultivation world. If he had an immortal equipment that he had carefully refined for many years, his strength would be even more powerful. After all, at this level, he could completely refine an immortal equipment and display the full power of the immortal equipment. Xiaoling Yu had to be careful, so the 6 demon suppressing immortal pearls hovered above his head and cast a large amount of divine light to envelop him. "Boy, you have a lot of good things. If I kill you, I might be able to make a fortune." The second elder of the Tai immortal sect said as he took out 4 jade talismans and threw them in 4 directions. "You have to have the ability to do so." Xiaoling Yu replied indifferently. 4 of the 6 demons suppressing immortal pearls flew out and hit a jade talisman. The jade talismans were used to set up a formation. Xiaoling Yu would naturally not allow the other party to set up the formation. The second elder of the Tai immortal sect was not surprised that Xiaoling Yu stopped him from breaking the formation. Instead, he waved his sleeve and threw out dozens of similar jade talismans. Although Xiaoling Yu used the demon-suppressing immortal orb and the phoenix feather to attack with all his might, he was only able to block a dozen or so jade talismans. The remaining jade talismans all shattered after a burst of light, and then disappeared in the fluctuating space. A moment later, the large area of space around Xiaoling Yu's group began to ripple violently. Numerous spatial cracks appeared out of nowhere and gathered towards Xiaoling Yu's side. Spatial cracks are the power of space. Although this formation is exquisite to the point of being able to draw upon the power of space, it is a big mistake to use it against me. I've been on the run for so many years, and the spatial energy in my wings of extreme speed has been greatly depleted. I can use this to replenish it." Xiaoling Yu smiled knowingly. Then, she continued to flap her wings of extreme speed. She stood motionless on the spot, allowing the spatial rifts to attack her like blades and swords. The second elder's expression darkened when he saw that the spatial rifts that struck Xiao Yu had all disappeared in a flash of silver light. His most powerful spell formation was completely useless against her. This was something that he had not expected. "Young miss, please stand guard outside. If that brat breaks out of the encirclement, you just have to stop him for a moment." The second elder instructed Dai. Then, he flew toward Xiao Yu. Strangely, the fluctuating space did not restrict him in the slightest. Before the second elder even got close to Xiao Yu, his unopened umbrella-shaped immortal artifact had already pierced toward Xiao Yu's chest like a sharp thorn. Moreover, its speed was incomparably fast. Xiao Yu was unable to dodge the attack of an 8th Tribulation expert's immortal artifact. She could only wave the phoenix feather in her hand and sweep it away. The phoenix feather's quality was higher than the umbrella-shaped artifact. However, in Xiao Yu's hands, the phoenix feather was unable to display its full power. Therefore, when the two immortal artifacts collided, the phoenix feather ended up carrying Xiao Yu and flying backwards. Before Xiao Yu could stabilize her body again, the second elder's umbrella-shaped immortal artifact flew over again and ruthlessly struck the sacred light cast by the demon suppressing immortal orb. What gave Xiao Yu a huge fright was that the tip of the umbrella-shaped immortal artifact had pierced through the sacred light barrier. If it had advanced another foot, it would have touched Xiao Yu's body. Although Xiao Yu's body was strong, it definitely could not withstand the attack of an immortal artifact. When she flew backwards again, the second elder's immortal artifact chased after her once more. If Xiao Yu did not have any other tricks up her sleeve, she was afraid that she would be suppressed like this until her defense was completely broken. An 8th Tribulation expert was much stronger than a 7th Tribulation expert. Xiao Yu might be able to deal with a 7th Tribulation loose immortal with these tricks, but she was definitely not a match for an 8th Tribulation loose immortal. When the umbrella-shaped immortal artifact attacked again, Xiao Yu's mind flickered and a golden shield appeared in front of him. The tip of the umbrella-shaped immortal artifact ruthlessly struck the shield, but it only made it tremble for a while and did not retreat at all. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Xiao Yu was able to stabilize his body. "You actually have such a high-level defensive magic treasure." The second elder's eyes suddenly shrank, and he withdrew his arm. The umbrella-shaped magic treasure flew backwards, but it spun for a while in the process of flying backwards and then slowly opened up. A ray of multicolored light shot out from the umbrella handle, and after the first elder's shout, it madly spun and stabbed towards Xiao Yu's golden shield. "Umph, I told you to stab properly, but I don't believe you can pierce through it." Xiao Yu, who was hiding behind the golden shield, took out his silver moon broken saber again, and when he saw the umbrella-shaped immortal artifact stabbing towards him, he flashed out. When the umbrella-shaped immortal artifact and the golden shield ruthlessly collided with each other, he used the silver moon broken saber to fiercely hack at it. With a boom, the umbrella-shaped magic treasure was sent flying to one side by the silver moon broken saber. Xiao Yu clearly saw that there were cracks on the handle of the umbrella. The second elder could not help but stagger and spit out a mouthful of blood when his life-bonded magic treasure was severely damaged. After all, the second elder was an 8th Tribulation expert, so he stabilized his body after a while and waved his hand to call back his umbrella-shaped immortal artifact. Feeling that the aura of the umbrella-shaped immortal artifact was getting weaker and weaker, he could not help but roar angrily, "Boy, I'll definitely take your life today. Oomph, will you die if you don't talk big?" Xiao Yu had a complacent smile on his face, and he did not seem to be afraid at all. He just wanted to annoy this old man. "Spatial storm, rise for me." The second elder shouted again, and the spatial cracks began to gather together. They circled around each other, forming a spatial hurricane that swept towards Xiao Yu. "This thing is useless against me." The wings of extreme speed flapped behind Xiao Yu, and Xiao Yu easily passed through the spatial storm. "Then is this useful to you?" The second elder's expression was gloomy. With a wave of his sleeve, 3 golden talismans appeared in his hand, and he shot them towards Xiao Yu. One of the 3 golden talismans blew the golden shield away, while the other used the scorching heat wave from the phoenix feather to blow apart the defense of the 6 demon, suppressing immortal orbs. The last one attacked Xiao Yu's body. Xiao Yu knew that he had been targeted, so he could only wave his silver moon-broken saber at the golden talismans. The golden talismans could explode, and when they were hit by the silver moon-broken saber, they exploded. Xiao Yu was immediately wrapped in golden light and flew out, and a heart-wrenching pain immediately spread throughout his body. The consequences of enraging an 8th tribulation expert would definitely be very serious. This was also the first time Xiao Yu experienced the power of an 8th tribulation expert. His body was blown up, and the jade box on his back was also blown apart. The unforgivable divine sword released an unparalleled sword intent and sword chi, and quietly floated in the air. Divine artifact. The second elder shouted in shock, and then without thinking, he flew towards the unforgivable divine sword. Chapter 140. The second elder's hand was about to touch the hilt of the unforgivable divine sword, but his expression changed drastically. The warning of danger that came from his heart made him have no choice but to withdraw his hand and dodge to the side rapidly. The 2 attacks, one cold and one hot, collided violently in front of the unforgivable divine sword, causing a black hole to appear in the space. A ring-shaped shock wave still affected the second elder's body. As an 8 tribulation expert, the second elder was naturally not injured by the shock wave, but his body was still involuntarily sent flying far away. After stabilizing his body, the second elder saw that there was a demonic beast on each side of Xiao Yu's hands. One was a coiled dragon, and the other was a very small snow-white little demonic beast. The dragon's mouth was still emitting flames, and the snow-white little demonic beast was surrounded by cold fog. It was obvious that the cold and hot attack just now was launched by these 2 demonic beasts. Such a powerful pet. The second elder's heart sank, and his brows were tightly knitted together. After all, the second elder was an 8 tribulation expert, and his knowledge was definitely not bad. From the aura overflowing from these 2 demonic beasts, he could tell that these 2 demonic beasts were not simple. Let's go home separately. The 2 of you alone can't do anything to me. Don't waste everyone's time. Everyone is very busy. Xiao Yu said confidently as she touched the scales of the serpent devourer of heaven with one hand and the icy soul heavenly silkworm with the other. Oof. Aren't you being smug a little too early? The second elder's face was gloomy. He had chased Xiao Yu for so long, but he still could not solve the problem. Moreover, his own natal fairy weapon was also damaged. This made his hatred for Xiao Yu even deeper. At this moment, the second elder's killing intent was even more intense, and he was already on the verge of going berserk. Let's not fight anymore. Even if you can kill me, I'm afraid you'll have to pay a very painful price. This is not a good thing for you when you face the 9 tribulations in the future, Xiao Yu advised earnestly. Oomph, you'll definitely die today. The second elder did not give Xiao Yu any face at all. He, who was burning with anger, did not know the details of the 2 demonic beasts. He only thought that Xiao Yu was deliberately scaring him. So after raising his aura again, he actually took out the damaged, umbrella-shaped fairy weapon. Old man, be careful of playing with your life. Xiao Yu replied fearlessly, and then the 6 demon immortal orbs flew out, and the golden shield firmly in front of him. With so many high-grade fairy weapons and 2 powerful pets to protect him, his confidence to rise. 9 heavens Xian Shi transformed to Tai. The second elder quickly chanted a mysterious incantation, and his hands quickly formed seals in front of him. When the 6 demon suppressing immortal pearls flew over, his umbrella-shaped immortal artifact unfolded once again, and after a rotation in the air, a vast immortal light gushed out. It was actually able to temporarily stop the 6 demon suppressing immortal pearls in the air, and they were unable to approach his body. Heaven and Earth Xian Huang, Tai Thunder. The second elder's incantation came to an end. His half-closed eyes suddenly opened, and his arms suddenly pushed towards the sky. Suddenly, the sky distorted, and the sound of thunder resounded between heaven and earth. In the time it took to take a breath, a sky full of thunderbolts descended from the sky, all of them snaking towards Shaoling Yu. Shaoling Yu frowned slightly, because the thunderbolts were not inferior to the attack of a low-grade fairy weapon. Moreover, there were so many of them that it was definitely not easy to block. With a thought, the golden shield blocked the top of his head. However, the golden shield had not been refined for too long, and Shaoling Yu was not familiar with it. Under such dense and high-frequency thunderbolts, even if its quality was extremely high, it would not be able to withstand for too long. All of you, attack together and kill that old man. Shaoling Yu naturally would not allow the other party to continue attacking. He immediately ordered his 2 powerful pets to attack. The giant snake devourer of heaven appeared to be very excited. After it let out a dragon roar, its body flew out like a purple rainbow, and waves of scorching fire gushed out from its mouth. The Eye Soul heavenly silkworm also turned into a white light, bringing along a misty cold mist. It continuously spat out waves of cold air that could freeze space towards the second elder. Feeling the attacks of the 2 monsters again, the second elder's heart trembled even more. He thought that the 2 monsters might be very powerful, but he did not expect that when they worked together, they happened to have 2 completely different attributes, one cold and one hot. When their attacks were combined, the power of their attacks was more than 10 times stronger. The second elder's expression was serious. He opened his mouth and spat out a burst of nascent immortal fire. Then he waved his hand and shot out a few golden talismans. Only then did he manage to neutralize the attacks of the giant snake and the Ice Soul heavenly silkworm. Then, the second elder mobilized a portion of the lightning in the sky to attack the 2 monsters. Only then did he limit the speed and power of the attacks of the 2 monsters to a certain extent. Under Shaoling Yu's full control, the 6 demon-suppressing immortal orbs quickly broke free from the light of the umbrella-shaped immortal artifact. Then, they quickly flew towards the second elder. The second elder could naturally see the power of the 6 demon-suppressing immortal orbs. He waved his arm, and the umbrella-shaped immortal artifact instantly returned to his hand. Then, he spat out a ball of essence blood into the umbrella-shaped immortal artifact. Immediately, the immortal artifact's immortal light shone brightly. Grand Unity Nirvana Lightning. The second elder knew that the opponent had too many powerful immortal artifacts, and also had 2 powerful pets. If this stalemate continued, it would be disadvantageous for him. Thus, he made up his mind and changed the hand seals in his hand. Following the second elder's hand seals and incantations, dazzling purple heavenly lightning descended. In just a moment, the broken golden shield was already on the verge of collapse. A piece of the Devourer of Heaven scale armor also shattered. The Icy Soul heavenly silkworm used its countless snow-white tentacles to consume the heavenly lightning. 8th Tribulation experts are really hard to deal with. This old fellow is too ruthless. He's about to go through the 9th Tribulation. How can he be so impulsive? Shaoling Yu cursed in his heart. Then he called back his 2 pets and the 6 demon-suppressing immortal orbs. He also held the unforgivable divine sword in his hand. Then he took out a transparent jade bottle. In that jade bottle, there was a nascent soul. It was the nascent soul of the Northern Wilderness Continent's 7th Tribulation loose demon, white hair. Old fellow, you forced me to do this. Even if I can't kill you, I can still interrupt this bullshit heavenly lightning technique of yours. Shaoling Yu clenched his teeth and made up his mind. He threw out the jade bottle. Then he held the golden shield and demon, suppressing immortal orb, while holding the unforgivable divine sword. He flapped his wings and flew away. Boom! The seven tribulation demon, nascent soul, suddenly exploded, and a shockwave that seemed to be able to destroy the heavens and earth abruptly swept out in all directions. A spatial black hole also appeared at the same time, and the planet Xiaolingyu was untrembled before exploding. Although the second elder was an eighth tribulation expert, he did not dare to ignore the self-destruction of a seventh tribulation nascent soul. He also did not care about his lightning technique. He immediately let the umbrella-shaped immortal artifact spurt out immortal light to protect his body. Then he fled in panic. Xiaolingyu did not expect this seventh tribulation nascent soul to be able to kill an eighth tribulation expert. Therefore, he did not stop. He flapped his wings with all his strength and continued to flee into the distant starry sky. Chapter 141. However, by the time the second elder regained his senses, Xiaolingyu had already escaped from the range of his immortal sense. How is he so powerful that even you, second elder, can't take him down? Dai asked in astonishment after calming herself down. To be able to impersonate a ninth tribulation expert, he is naturally not an ordinary cultivator. His cultivation is very special and high level. His magic treasure is also very powerful. Even his pet is not ordinary. This person's origin is definitely not ordinary. The second elder said with a pale face. The battle just now had consumed too much of his energy. It could be said that it was the most difficult battle he had fought in many years, but in the end, he was still unable to kill his opponent. If we don't get rid of this person, he will definitely be a great threat to our Tai immortal sect. Dai said solemnly. That might not be the case. He just has a powerful magic treasure. Without it, I can easily kill him. Of course, if we have another seventh tribulation loose immortal to help us, we can also easily kill him. The second elder shook his head. He is already so strong. Why did he bid for the seven-colored Thunder Source Rock? Dyer asked in puzzlement. The seven-colored Thunder Source Rock only has one use, and that is to resist the tribulation lightning. He bid for the seven-colored Thunder Source Rock for only one purpose, and that is to help him or someone related to him pass the tribulation. However, this person has always been a loner, so he shouldn't be preparing for someone else's tribulation. It should be for himself. The second elder explained while wiping the blood from his beard. You mean, he hasn't passed the heavenly tribulation yet? Dyer asked in astonishment. He shouldn't have. However, I felt the aura of the heavenly tribulation coming from his body, so I used the Tai lightning attraction technique just now. I wanted to use the lightning attraction technique to bring his heavenly tribulation forward. Unfortunately, I didn't succeed. The second elder shook his head. He still needs to pass the tribulation, so he definitely isn't a nine tribulation expert. Haha, of course he's not a nine tribulation expert. He's not a loose immortal at all. His body isn't refined from refined materials. It's a real human body. Second elder said with a wry smile. Not an itinerant immortal? The shock on Dai-Er's face deepened. Then, she said in shock, he's not a loose celestial, and he's about to cross his tribulation. That means he's at the late stage of the crossing tribulation stage. However, even if a cultivator at the late stage of the crossing tribulation stage has a powerful celestial weapon, how could he be a match for an 8 tribulation loose celestial? This is too unbelievable. I'm not sure about that. He can't be judged by common sense. His two powerful pets don't seem to be familiar with their cultivation realms yet, and they don't have a tacit understanding with each other. Otherwise, just those two monster beasts alone would be enough to tire me out, the second elder said with a gloomy expression. Then what should we do in the future? Now that he's escaped, I'm afraid he won't appear so easily in the future. Dyer asked. We can only go back and ask the first elder for help. The second elder said helplessly. Great elder? The first elder is about to ascend. He might not necessarily take action. After all, He said before that before he ascends to the immortal world, he will only guard the headquarters of the Tai, immortal sect, and won't go out again. Dai tilted her head. Don't worry. The first elder will definitely make an exception and come out of seclusion. That brat is not only our strongest enemy, but also has several high-grade celestial weapons on him. He also has a very powerful divine sword. The first elder will not give up this opportunity. After all, after ascending to the immortal world, he will no longer be a top expert and will need some better celestial weapons to protect himself. If he can get his hands on a divine weapon before he ascends, The second elder laughed dryly, but he didn't finish his sentence. After running for a while, Xiaoling Yu saw that the other party didn't chase after him. He knew he was out of danger and couldn't help but let out a long sigh. He thought to himself, that old bastard couldn't have been killed by the explosion, right? Then he took out the chasing star and began to fly at full speed in a certain direction while recuperating and adjusting his state. After flying for less than 10 days, the serpent devourer of heaven contacted Xiaoling Yu with his mind, saying that it was about to undergo its tribulation. How can it be so fast? Xiaoling Yu was very surprised. When the serpent had just woken up, it had said that it would have to wait at least 100 years for its tribulation to come. Xiaoling Yu didn't know that the reason the serpent's tribulation came early was because of the second elder's Tai lightning attraction technique. Regardless, Xiaoling Yu knew that it was time to stop and prepare. Therefore, he had the chasing star stop on a lifeless planet and began to take out all kinds of materials to set up a formation. Xiaoling Yu wasn't a formation expert, but the materials he used were very high grade. Therefore, the formation could still have some defensive effects. During the tribulation, the person undergoing the tribulation had to face it alone. If an outsider helped, the tribulation would be doubled. This was especially so for cultivators like Xiaoling Yu who were about to undergo the tribulation. They couldn't help other cultivators in their tribulation. Otherwise, it was very likely that their own tribulation would come early as well. If the two of them were to undergo the tribulation together, the chances of success would be almost zero. After setting up the formation, Xiaoling Yu spent a lot of energy and cultivation to set up layers of restrictions in the formation. In the end, Xiaoling Yu still didn't feel at ease and lent the serpent the metal treasure that he couldn't understand. However, it was of very high quality. As for the Rainbow Thunder Origin Stone that could increase the success rate of tribulation transcendence, Xiaoling Yu didn't have a necessary treatment. It was useless to take it out now. While Xiaoling Yu was busy, the serpent waited calmly in the formation for the tribulation to come. After more than a month, rolling dark clouds appeared out of nowhere and covered the area where Xiaoling Yu and the serpent were. Amidst the dark clouds, flashes of lightning and rumbles of thunder constantly resounded. Waves of heart-palpitating pressure descended from the sky. Xiaoling Yu knew that this was the omen of the arrival of the heavenly tribulation. Xiaoling Yu reminded the serpent and blessed it. Then, he flew out of the area covered by the dark clouds and heavenly pressure. He watched from afar, but his heart was very nervous. More and more dark clouds gathered, and the lightning became more and more obvious. The thunder rumbled and shook the 9 heavens, making people tremble in fear. The dark clouds spun faster and faster, gradually forming a vortex. In the center of the vortex, there was a group of yin-yang fish. The lightning in the dark clouds was constantly gathering towards the yin-yang fish. After waiting for about 10 hours, after an explosion, a bright white tribulation lightning struck down from the sky. Its target was the formation that Xiaoling Yu had set up. What made Xiaoling Yu depressed and embarrassed was that the formation and restrictions that he had painstakingly set up for a long time turned into ashes under the bombardment of the first tribulation lightning. This tribulation doesn't give me any face. Looks like I have to work more on formations and restrictions in the future, Xiaoling Yu muttered to himself awkwardly. The first tribulation lightning wasn't very strong. After destroying Xiaoling Yu's formation and restrictions, it lost its power. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.